Hi, hello. Welcome back to my witch obsession. If you're seeing this, this would be a horoscope for all 12 signs from August 24th through August 30th. As always, I've written down everything that I want to talk about, and timestamps are in the description box below. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe on the way down there, and I'll see you at your reading. I love you. Oh my gosh, you guys. Can I be honest? I don't really feel like I had that great of a week, but I'm kind of happy about the conclusions that I have drawn because of it. So on one hand, I didn't really need to go through all that, but on the other hand, I am grateful about the lessons that it brought me. But I have some coffee here. I got the Starbucks one, but it was like caramel macchiato. And I was thinking, oh wow, like this would be so much easier than buying the coffee and then the creamer. Just have one. It tastes so bad. So what I did was this is half coffee, half milk. That's the only way I can drink this. Even with the milk, I can barely drink it. But I like that because it's a little bit more diluted. And okay. So the reason why I kind of had an annoying week was because this whole like getting a job at the bank process has been so stressful because they need like pre-employment history, and I just like don't. Okay, this is gonna sound really bad, you guys, but am I allowed to talk about this on YouTube? Like, will the feds come for me? But when I worked my previous jobs, like I just like didn't file my taxes. I just didn't do it because I was like, in my 21-year-old brain, I was like, I mean, y'all already took the money out of my paycheck. Why I gotta file that, Like, just keep the money. Y'all are broke anyways. Leave me alone, And I know that's not how it works. But whenever my friend, she did her taxes, I went with her, and the guy like logged into my account real quick. He was like, oh yeah, you don't really like owe anything. You're fine. So I was like, and then this past year, I finally filed my taxes for my Etsy shop. I reported my income from my Etsy because I did make enough money to where I like needed to report it, And now like that's gonna have to be like a consistent thing, which is really annoying. But yeah, so it's kind of hard to find all my documents to like go to this thing and like lining up with my resume. And I'm like, can y'all just tell I'm young and turn like. Anyways, so I've just been like really stressed out about it, and they delayed my start date. And at this point, I'm like, man, are y'all gonna fire me? Like just please, just either fire me or keep me. I don't know which one you want, because it's like a whole screening process. And the reason why it stresses me out, it's not even whether or not I have the job. It's more so about the fact that I'm stressed out because it's like pending. I hate when I'm waiting on something. I've been waiting on my Amazon package, I've been waiting on my retainers, I've been waiting on this school to start, I've been waiting on my job, and I'm so tired of it, y'all. I hate it. I hate waiting for these things. I'm like, please just start, please. It makes me so angry. Like, this is the let me calm down. But I need y'all to I'm okay with change. I understand that change is necessary, and I've had to drill that into my brain. And I will initiate change, but I can't stand how every time I initiate change, it has to be like this whole process that takes forever. And like, I understand why these processes are here. Amazon really pissed me off because tell me why I ordered these bed sheets like 2 weeks ago. They just charged my card yesterday, and the package still isn't here. It just shipped, and it's supposed to be here by this coming Tuesday. And I'm like, girl, I hate how they're trying to like keep me on my toes, because at first it said like August 17th through August 25th it should be here. They had the audacity, the gall to say arriving by Tuesday, to change it from arriving between this and this to Tuesday, which is the 25th. So Tuesday is the 25th. I'm like, y'all have some nerve. Y'all got balls, okay, for doing that to me, because you and I both know like this is That's like same but diff, okay? So please. Oh my gosh. It made me so angry. And so I'm just like really like freaked out by like this whole thing. And I like was breaking out so bad because I was so stressed out. And I'm still like breaking out a little bit, you know, but they're going away. This side of my face was horrific. Ever since my last horoscope, my last video from last week, I was breaking out all along here. You know, it was this, but all over this side of my face. It was like a minefield over here, y'all. I looked like the moon. And I was distraught, okay? I was absolutely distraught. But yesterday I was thinking about it because I used to be a mailman, and I remember I worked at the post office for like 2 weeks and then I got fired. I think I told this story before, but anyways, so I'm not really like opposed. Like, I don't really care if the job doesn't go through because you can just find another job. The only reason I was very psyched out about this job is because it will be like a very long-term job. And so I was just very excited about that because I don't like changing jobs if I don't have to, or I really wanted a job that I felt like, you know, I think everything's gonna be okay. I think this is just, it's whatever. I can't prove it, but I don't know, y'all. Like, this whole thing has just been really annoying. My manager at the location that I'm supposed to be working at, they had emailed me and they said they're on vacation and to email somebody, or like to call somebody else to start my training with them. But then I got the email that said, and it was like an automated email from like the whole system. It was like, oh, your start date's been delayed to this date, because originally I was supposed to start on the 24th, but then they pushed it to the 31st. I'm like, hey, yo, the school starts on the 31st. Can y'all delay by maybe like 1 or 2 more weeks? Because I low-key do not want to deal with that. You know, starting school and a job at the same time sounds like hell. Like, that's like you're trying to like you're trying to unalive me, you know? And so I don't know, y'all. I don't know what's gonna happen. I feel like if you're watching this and you're like, it's fine, it probably happens, or like maybe some of you are like, yeah, dude, you're toast, you're gonna get fired. Who knows what will happen? But all I'm saying is I just really hope they're like, because I'm tired of wrestling with the system. Do you see what I mean? I really don't like, I hate automated phone calls. I hate automated emails, you know, like it just really annoys me. And I feel like that's the one thing I'm not excited about when it comes to like AI. Like, everything else is like whatever, y'all can like debate about that, but like when it comes to like automated stuff, I just cannot stand it, you know. I don't like when I call places and it's like an automated thing. It's like, press 1 to do this, press 2, press 3. And I'm like, how about no? How about I just pull up, you know? How about I just drive to the place and talk to a real human being who knows what I'm talking about? Because this robot doesn't. And so, because it's like, when you call someplace and if you're not paying your bills, it you probably need something, you know. We're not dumb, a lot of us. So it's like, why? It's like, I always wait to the fourth one that's like, oh, press 4 to talk to an associate or something, you know. But yeah, that's just, it's been really stressing me out today and this week though. Okay, let me get to the good stuff. So I am feeling more grounded because I have been going for walks on the beach, and I can already see how going to the gym will be another reliever for me. But I really didn't want to start the gym until I knew that this job, like, I started the job, you know, like that's kind of my thing. But now I'm thinking that I'll wait till the new moon in Virgo next month to start going to the gym, you know, because that's just so, you know. And so I was like, okay, I'll wait till that, because I really didn't want to start anything else until eclipse season was over. So I knew this was going to be a drawn out process. And I think I know that September is going to have me with my hands tied all over again. And I'm just not ready for it, really. I'm just not into it. You know, like, this is really not my cup of tea or coffee, I suppose. But yeah, I've been going for walks on the beach, and it takes me about like an hour and a half because I walk a pretty good distance, and that's kind of like my exercise and my way of like calming down and like de-stressing, especially because it's next to, you know, water, and Neptune's in my fifth. So I'm like, all right, that's very Neptune in the fifth. And I really, really like the beach because there's a lot of things that I like about it. First of all, I like the sound of the water. I like the way, because the time of day I walk, usually the sun's kind of setting, and I like the texture of the water against the texture of the sand. I think it's so pretty. And I also really like how everybody there is like sparsely clothed. Like a lot of people are like shirtless and stuff. And the reason why I like that is because it's really nice to see people feel comfortable enough to take their clothing off, you know? Like these people are obviously comfortable enough with their body, or are not as concerned with what other people are doing enough to take off their clothes. That makes me feel, it makes me feel safer, because I don't know what it is, but especially over in the West, this is not as bad as in the East. I don't know, like I was in the South, but over here in the West, like people are very comfortable talking about your body to you and saying things to you, and you know, looking you up and down, and it's very weird and very strange. So when I go to the beach and people aren't, it's not as uncomfortable there, you know? Like we all still do it, I feel, but it's not to the degree as if you went somewhere else, you know? So that's why I really appreciate that, especially because like I tend to sometimes end up being around people like my roommate. She has totally like commented on my body before, and I have corrected her about that, because don't ever talk about my body to me, you know? But yeah, that's just a lot of things, and I just love being in that environment. It makes me feel like, you know. And yesterday I was listening to music, which usually I don't do. Usually I'll leave my phone in my car and like just walk without technology. But yesterday I decided to listen to music, and oh my gosh, I was so happy I did. It was so good. I'm definitely gonna go again today if I can, or if I feel like it, because especially because it gets really hot in here throughout the day. You know, I kind of messed up today because it's like noon right now, and usually I start filming at around like 10 or 11, because then it starts to get hot in my room. But I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna just tough it out. And yeah, like I guess my point is that I just like it, and it feels good. And so I'm really excited to start going to the gym and like developing little routines and stuff, because I'm not really that concerned with getting like swole or like bigger, because I like being a skinny legend, you know? Like I'm young and turned, like I can park really close to cars and slip out of my car without worrying about it. I can slip through nooks and crannies of people without having to like bump into them and stuff. So I really like it. I think it's very convenient, and I think it's very nice. And I'm a little bit nervous to get bigger as well, because I feel like if I change a lot physically, that will change who I hang out around, and I don't know if I'm ready for that shift in my social life. But yeah, that's just like a loose thought. And another thing that I just got into it yesterday, so today's Friday, I got into on Thursday, was watercolor painting. Let me show you all why. But I finished this book, and it's called The 7-Year Slip, and oh my gosh, I think y'all should read this. It's a romance novel, and my friend recommended it to me. If you're watching this, sis, hey. But she recommended it to me because she said that the book talks a lot about food, because the male protagonist, first of all, he's a Scorpio. Y'all got me. But he was a chef, or you know, and he loves cooking. And this book was published in 2023, which is funny because that's when Jupiter was in Taurus. So I'm like, let me read more literature from that time of year. But so basically this book, if you haven't already heard of it, it's about this couple, and like this girl meets this guy in this apartment that's like magical, that transports her back to 7 years ago. And then like basically the book explores their dynamic of like her with present him and like past him, and like meeting in the present. And then she's also like grieving her aunt, and it's just like this, it's so poignant, you know? It is just so melancholic throughout the book. And I cried. I literally cried over 5 times trying to finish this book, y'all. I was at work too finishing it, and I was like you know, it was so funny because this book was so sad, but it was really good. And I liked the ending was a little bit bittersweet, as grief usually is, you know? Like grief doesn't really have a conclusion. So that, for what it's worth, I think that this was just like a very roundabout story, and I I loved it. So I got into watercolor painting because the girl, Clementine, she was really into watercolor painting, and I did not. It's so funny because yesterday I went to Walmart and I got this little cute little set with these brushes, and it was only like $7 for all this. I was like, wow, that was so cheap. I guess the bulk of the cost would be the book. But I have like this little sketchbook. And when Saturn first moved into my 5th house, that's when I started keeping a sketchbook, because I thought, oh, like, because when I was a kid, I used to draw a lot and I used to create art a lot. And I remember a lot of people back then would tell me, like, you should be an artist when you grow up. And like, as I've grown up, I'm kind of like, I feel like art is so lucrative now, and I wouldn't really want to do it for profit. I just do it because it's fun and something I'm able to express myself and get back to myself with. I remember this one kid, I used to show off my art in art class, and this one kid yelled at me and said, show off. And like, that has really stuck with me. So I don't know where he is out there. You don't hear about him nowadays, of course, because it's just like, if you're calling me a show off, like, let me stop. Anyways, so yeah, I like to scrapbook a lot in here. I remember the first scrapbook I did was my Sephora haul. So I like scrapbooked all the packaging and stuff. And I had like this newspaper subscription, and then my friend brought this newspaper from Mexico, so I like scrapbooked it all. I drew some pictures. Oh! Anyways, I have like this dollar in here. I just keep it because I call it my lucky dollar. I don't know. And I do that with a lot of books. I just have like books where I put money in it and I just leave it there, and I don't even know which books have money in it. I know one of them has a $10 bill in it, but I don't know. I think it's kind of cute. It's kind of fun. Oh my god, I drew Ariana. But anyways, so let me get to the point. So yeah, yesterday I painted this and I like drew it, and I really like it. I actually, you know, I've never watercolor painted before, and I didn't understand how watercolors worked as a kid, so I didn't like it. But now as an adult, I love the color of it. Oh my gosh. It looks like digitally developed to me. Does that make sense? And so I'm just absolutely in love, and I'm really excited because here, I was using this paper towel, and does this not look so pretty? You know, I was just wiping the paintbrushes on here. I was like, oh my goodness, I so want this like on a piece of paper and then like draw things in it. Wouldn't that be so cute? So I thought, oh wow, like this is a whole new world, you know? So that was just kind of something exciting that I found out about yesterday. And I loved like the look of having the book open on my desk. It just made me feel so good about myself. And I was just like, wow, I really missed being like, I like coloring a lot, but I don't like coloring with like crayons or pens that much. I don't like regular paints because I feel like they're messy and they take forever to dry. And I'm not really a digital art person because I feel like I'm a little bit tactile, or like I like the feeling of the paper and the pencil and whatnot. So I like the sensations. I could get into digital art if I had a tablet or something, but even then, just like the whole like doing this, that I can't get behind it. I'm not hating on it. I'm just saying it's not for me. And so, yeah, I'm very thrilled, and I think I want to start drawing Pokemon in here. Oh my gosh, I used to love doing that as a kid. So definitely Saturn in my 5th is incentivizing me or pushing me to be more creative and to do creative things more. And yeah, see, look, I even scrapbooked my tax refund, part of the envelope that they sent it to me in. What is this? Oh, this one I was really proud of. I want to show you guys. Do you guys play Overwatch? This is Domina. I loved her when she came out. I was like, oh, that girl. And then I thought this was funny, like, if you love me, then say so. So I had to, like, scrapbook it. But anyways, enough. But another thing that I was thinking about was I had watched this tarot reading by Mauve ASMR, and I listened to it, and oh, I was just like painting while I was listening to it. It was divine. And I gained a lot of messages from it, and I wanted to share with you all because she was talking, or she was saying like, oh, you know, I think your abundance is blocked because you want validation from other people, and because of this, people unknowingly have power over you because if they don't give you the recognition and praise that you want and need, then, you know, it like stifles you, you know, like you feel like you deserve it, but you won't like get it, you know? And that made me think a lot, because I definitely think that that's a big reason why I struggled a little bit in June and whatnot, because I don't like being partnered up with people who, and even just being around people who don't appreciate what I like, because I'm very like, when I'm around people, I really take interest in what they take interest in. And sometimes it becomes a little bit unhealthy, I feel, because I like take it in so much. And it's really annoying because I can struggle with like boundaries with like, you know, like I want to focus on what I like, and it's a little bit annoying because when people focus on what they like, I'm such a good audience. And you know, like here's a big example. Oh my gosh, you guys, this really bugs me. I don't know if y'all like karaoke, but it really bothers me when I go to karaoke with people and when someone's singing, people are like looking through the book for their song, you know? I feel like that, like maybe I get it because you're trying to save time, but like for people who listen to music so much more frequently than I do, like, can you not do that? Because whenever someone else is singing, I'm looking at them, I'm looking at the screen, I'm paying attention to their vocals and what they're doing, you know? Like, and I'm being an audience. So it really bothers me when people, like, I don't look through the book when someone else is singing. But when I'm singing and everyone's looking through the book, I'm like, why am I even singing, you know? Yeah, like I'm trying to like get it out, you know, and I understand like what people like, I understand, but it's just like, wouldn't it be more fun to like pay attention to someone sing, clap for them, support them, and laugh at them or laugh with them or whatever kind of group you be in. And then when they're done, that's when you can talk, and then you can be like, ooh, what song should I do? And then you can like bond and connect, you know, which is like the point of karaoke. So that's what I don't like. And anyways, so I don't like that in my interpersonal relationships either, you know? Like, especially if it's romantic, your partner, I feel like, should take a little bit of interest in the things that you like. They don't have to participate or like be into it, you know, but they can at least support it and be into, like, it's like having like if you had a kid, like obviously that's not the same thing, but like if you had a kid, like you would want to support them too, you know, like you would want them to take interest in the things that they take interest in, because this is your spawn, you know. And same thing with a partner, like you love them, like that's how I feel. If I'm with friends with someone and I love them, I love all my friends, so I take a little bit of interest in things that they take interest in, because those things compose them as a person. And I feel like it makes me know, it allows me to know them a little bit more intimately, you know. And is that not really nice? But yeah, that's just something that I've been thinking about a lot lately. So I've been trying to distance myself from people, and that reading just made me think a lot. You know, she was like, oh, like you can be proud of yourself, you know, you can give that to yourself, and you can celebrate your own little wins. And that made me think a lot, because I was like, oh wow, yeah, like I really should do that. I feel like that would make me a lot more secure in myself. And so I decided that I'm going to do like creative things as like a reward, because I'm so excited to paint. And I've been playing video games as well. Again, I've been playing Garden Warfare, and it just feels so good because I feel like I got my skills back with the game, or I'm like a lot better, because I used to boot up the game and then I would literally suck so bad and it would make me so angry, so I'd get off the game. But lately I've been doing a lot better on it, and I actually enjoy it. Like I want to play it, like I want to do these things, and I want to read. Let me show you what I'm reading in a second. But you know, like all these creative things, and it makes me really happy, because now it feels like I want to get in the habit of making it a reward, you know. And I want it to be like enrichment, you know. Like it's very like when you're a little kid, it's like you can play after you get all your stuff done, you know. But obviously I'm grown AF, so I'll play before I work and then I'll play again, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, that is just something that I've been thinking about a lot, and I feel like it's allowed me to bring a lot of color and like boundaries into my life, and it like differentiates things. I feel like I'm getting back to like me and like my roots and what I like and what matters to me, and I feel good about it. Especially I don't know, I hope that you all are practicing the same things soon. If you have like hobbies and stuff, or if you have like art or something, you should definitely talk about it down below. I think that'd be so exciting. I love reading comments, you know. But what was the other thing that I wanted to say? Two more things. Let me show you what I'm reading, and then I have one more thing that I kind of wanted to broach just a little bit. But I'm rereading this book. This is The Blue Sisters by Coco Mellers. I love this book. I'm kind of nervous to keep reading it. I'm on page like 50 because this book will make me cry again. I just know it will. But I don't know if you guys have heard me talk about it, but it's basically a story about four sisters. One of them passed away, and it goes Avery, Bonnie, Lucky, and Nikki. Yeah. And it's just a story about them, you know, living in different corners of the world, navigating grief, and then they have to go back to New York to prevent the sale of the apartment that they all used to live in growing up. And it vividly talks about their own feelings and their characters, and it's so good, and the ending is so fire. I'm so excited to reread this. I recommend this book to absolutely everybody. I feel like everybody can gain something from reading this book, especially if you have gone through like hardships with things with like sobriety, grief, you know, like womanhood and siblings, family dynamics, trauma with any of the aforementioned things. Like, I think that everybody has something to gain from this book. But especially if you have siblings, I recommend this book. So if you're like a Gemini, Saturn, And then I have this one next. This is Mrs. Shim is a Killer. I kind of explained it, but I'll talk more about it when I actually read the book, because I feel like it's a lot, but it's a thriller book. It's like action. So, and it's translated from Korean, so I'm very excited to get to it and read it. I got this book a while ago, so I'm very thrilled. I think I'm going to eat it up. Anyways, the last thing that I want to tell you about is I really don't like TikTok, y'all. I know a lot of you on here may notice that I don't post on TikTok as frequently as I used to. And that's because I feel like TikTok is kind of a cesspool of people who are hungry for information, and they treat everything on there like it's like a commodity. And it makes me feel like people think I'm a commodity. And I don't really like that, because I feel like people think like, oh, like this, you know? And it bothers me because it's like, I'll post one horoscope and they're like, what about this sign? What about this sign? What do you think of this, you know? And I don't hate, but I don't like when people think that they are obligated, or like I owe them that knowledge, you know? And I'm happy to teach, I'm happy to talk about what I think and whatnot. And I don't really label myself as an astrologer. I just really, really like astrology, you know? And so I don't like how, as I'm scrolling through TikTok, a lot of people start their posts with, as an astrologer, as a dietitian, as a this, you know? And these are great things, you know? Like, I think it's great for your ego. I think it's great for you to be well-versed in something. But you don't always need the label to, like, the truth will always prevail. Like, that's just facts and science. So I don't know, that's just something that's been bothering me. So I usually only, like, can I just be real? I'll post on TikTok, and I'll post like popular signs that get the most views, and like it just makes money, and it like draws people to my channel. Like this, like YouTube, I hate when people are like, oh, like, can you do this? I'm like, babe, I do all 12 of y'all on YouTube, you know? And so that's really annoying, and that's why I'm just kind of like, if you are too lazy to go watch the first 20 seconds of a video and then click a link, then like you're already like cooked, and I really, you know? So that's why I don't like TikTok, and sometimes I think about deleting it and getting rid of it, but it's literally free money. I just post like the same like 5-6 signs on there. Like, just truth be told, like, there's like, if I'm not gonna say it, like, my feed will reflect it, you know? So that's just kind of how I feel about it, because it's just like, I hate dealing with like the smart comments on there and the people, and I don't know, it doesn't really do it for me. And I feel like TikTok is kind of like a dumpster fire right now, because of like all the drama between like these influencers and stuff. And I'm always hearing about it, and people are like posting about it, being like, can we stop talking about this as you post another TikTok to talk about it? So it kind of just like throws me off. And would that be a cute thumbnail? Actually, no. I think yeah, no. yeah, no, I don't, yeah, no, not right now. But yeah, that's just kind of something I wanted to throw out there. And it makes me feel all the more appreciative of all of you on here. I like how you, I like how everyone on here, like, it feels more tight-knit, it feels more community, it feels more structured and organized as well, and I really appreciate that. And if you are coming from TikTok, or, you know, we all know what TikTok is, like, I'm sure we can all feel the same way about that app. But yeah, I love you all, and I'm really happy that you all are here. I love posting on here. I love just this, and I love it way more than being on TikTok, because TikTok just feels sometimes, and I don't really care. I just, it's just not for me sometimes. So, but I kind of hope they do like pull the plug on that app again, or I hope they kind of like ban it or something, because I feel like a lot of us would do so much better without it, because I feel like back in the day it used to be like useful and like so plentiful of like information, but now I kind of just feel like it's overdone. It's like very oversaturated, and it just doesn't do it for me. But yeah, that's all I have today. I need to send you off to your reading. It's been 31 minutes. I love you. Thank you for listening. See you at your reading. All right, starting out with Sagittarius rising. So hello, Sagittarius. If you're seeing this, this would be your horoscope for August 24th through August 30th. As always, I've written down everything that I want to talk about. The highlight of this week is easily the 28th. The 28th is a lot of things happening. And also, I know we're not on the 31st this week, but I think you'll be able to feel it, because Jupiter will come into a trine with Saturn on the 31st, but they're such slow moving planets. I think that you will start to feel it as this week progresses more and more. And so the 28th is important because that is the final lunar eclipse in Pisces, and for you, this will be taking place in your 4th house. Simultaneously this day, and technically the day before, we will see a Mercury cazimi in Virgo, and it will be in a square with Uranus, and you are the missing piece to this. So this will be forming a grand mutable cross in your chart. So the 28th, especially if you're anywhere between like 0 to 10 degrees of Sag rising, you will be feeling this week, and it will be like your whole life is moving forward, you know, like the wheel is turning. But interestingly enough, now that Jupiter is in a very friendly sign, or it is in your 9th house and trining your ascendant and being helped by Saturn in your 5th, which is also forming a grand fire trine in your chart, I think that this lunar eclipse has the potential to bring you all a lot of discipline and a lot of awareness, and I think that there will just be a lot of shakeups and random changes when it comes to your relationships, since, you know, it's a Mercury cazimi with, you know, Uranus in a Mercury ruled sign, and Mercury is in its home sign at this point, so it's just very powerful here. And then the lunar eclipse is taking place on your 4th house, so it's on the bottom of your chart, shining a light on everything else. So a lot of you could be wrapping up things with like moving with your family, and for some of you who this isn't as like, could just be water stuff, like finally getting the house repiped, fixing water damage and the floors and whatnot. Pisces makes me think of like the bedroom as well, so a lot of you could be redoing like your bedroom, or, you know, making your personal space a little bit more comfortable, more sanctuary. And so a lot of you could be delving into that. And then with the cazimi in your 10th house, you may be receiving news about your career. And with the square to Uranus, it may be that a lot of you are like unexpectedly meeting people through this, or there will just be like shakeups in relationships. And since this is all, like I said, in a grand mutable cross with your ascendant, it may just be that a lot of you are just seeing all sectors of your life move forward. And it's kind of hard to say in what ways that it will, because it's so different for all of us, but I think I'm just very comfortable in saying that it all kind of boils down to your living situation, your home, and the immense focus on your emotional and your mental health. Like everything comes back to that. And so I think that everything else in your life is it's presenting news, and a lot of it will just siphon back to the fact that you're kind of like trying to get back together when it comes to your emotional well-being. And then with the Jupiter and a trine of Saturn, a lot of you, you know, like if you watch the intro of this, I'm a Sag rising, a lot of you could be going into like arts or doing creative things, or there could just be a lot of dealings with children in your life in some way. And especially if you have kids and then they're like having kids. But for others of you, it could also just be that there is something going on with like children being more independent, more like having more autonomy, with like Saturn in your 5th and then Jupiter's in the 9th. So your kids could be traveling, going to school, like going off abroad or something. Or this may even be you trying to travel and you trying to go abroad and going back to school, or pursuing some sort of like higher certification or educational level. And if that not be the case, I also just think that a lot of you are developing new philosophies on ways of living your life. And I think it's interesting because this eclipse is right in the middle of the week, and before that, the moon will move through Capricorn and Aquarius. The moon in Capricorn, I feel like the beginning of the week will be very similar to the end of the week, because at the beginning of the week, the moon will be in Capricorn and it will square Saturn. But then at the end of the week, after the eclipse, the moon will move through Aries and it will conjunct Saturn. So it's kind of like same but diff. I think the beginning of the week will be a little bit frustrating, especially like financially, because we're going to also see Mars building up a square with Saturn. So a lot of you may be having to pivot in your finances, moving your money around, and it may be that a lot of you are having to like withdraw something, deposit something, pay something off, and unexpected or like annoying expenses may kind of come up a little bit. So I would definitely say that this week, set aside some money or just be a little bit more intentional when it comes to your spending, because I noticed that a lot of Sag risings right now are kind of like the walls are closing in financially with Mars in your 8th house and then with Saturn in your 5th. So it's kind of like your own income and your ability to make money right now, it's like slow growing and it's getting there and it's stabilizing. But at the same time, you may be facing some bumps in the road, and you may notice that at the beginning and end of the week. But I think the end of the week, there will definitely be some kind of payout coming out. I think a lot of you will get a good paycheck at the end of the week, or a lot of you will receive like a payment, especially from like childcare, or a lot of you could also be receiving like tax benefits or some kind of insurance payout, or even money from your family, and it could be related to your kids. But I definitely think that a lot of you will be receiving some sort of like a financial thing at the end of the week. But because it's an Aries, I think it will require you to ask for it, fight for it, or say something about it, or kind of like make something happen. And if that not be the case, I think also a lot of you will be able to refinance something or set something up to buy yourself more time if there is a concern about getting payments on time. But overall, I think that your financial situation will be heavily revised through Mars in Cancer, and it will not always be a pretty process, but it will be necessary. And then with Aquarius, so the moon will be in Aquarius right before the eclipse, of course, and it will trine Uranus and Venus and conjunct Pluto. So like, especially if there's anything going on with your car, this may be a particular week when it comes to that. So a lot of you may be having to get a car like fixed or towed or like taken care of, maintenance. Definitely try to take care of that in the beginning of the week, or just like, I think that this is a good time to do it. There's really no bad way to do it. I think if you're gonna do it, it's the beginning or end of the week. I'm actually gonna take back what I said. I like the end of the week more, because we'll be out of eclipse season and the moon will be in Aries in a trine with your ascendant. So I think the end of the week is not a bad time to get car service done if it can be helped and waited. And I like the trine to Venus as well. Venus is very happy in your 11th house, and the moon being in Aquarius, it's giving like good news. I think a lot of you will have like a sincere wish fulfilled, or a lot of you like maybe a job offer. Venus rules your 6th and your 11th, so good news from a friend, somebody wishing you well, somebody having like putting good names in for you, and networking opportunities, going out with people, collaborating, socializing, good fortune with social media and streaming if that is something that you do, or just like getting the word out. And especially with the moon trining Uranus as well, I think that it will be very like unexpected, and people will be unexpectedly communicating and reaching out for you in the beginning of the, or like middle of the week right before the eclipse. So on one hand, a lot of you might feel like people are being very not generous with you, or you may feel like there's some sort of like a frustration going on here when it comes to getting your own stuff. But on the other hand, people will be, it's kind of weird. Like a lot of you might just kind of feel like the walls are closing in on you with like what you need to take care of, but other people, especially like social circles and like interpersonal partnerships, they will be very forthcoming with innovative new solutions and giving you a hand whenever you need it. And then when we see the Mercury Cazimi with the square to Uranus, I think a lot of you could have like a lot of shifts in your career and your work situation, and it may be very convenient, or it may be very like odd, like so like a very odd arrangement. So maybe it's like working remote or like hybrid schedules or something like that. So that's what I think. But yeah, for you, we have the Devil. So I definitely feel like with all the Capricorn energy, I feel like it's easy to get in your own way this week, you know? And this card, it talks about addiction. It talks about, you know, like needing something or like wanting something, but not necessarily needing it. So if there is addictive tendencies, especially with the full moon in Pisces, a lot of you may be releasing addiction, obsessive tendencies, or getting rid of unhealthy emotional habits. So I'm feeling like the message for you with this card is don't give into attachment. Don't give into what's familiar and what you know you shouldn't be around and what you know isn't going to help you, because I think a lot of you are at this point of no return where relapsing on something and going back to something will just be just as laborious to do as continuing to push forward. So I think Sagittarius, this card really shows that you could really stand in your own way, but especially with like, you know, overthinking and whatnot. But with that being said, just know that this week will be really as good as you make it in terms of how you cope and how you deal with your thoughts and how you deal with different processes, especially if you're dealing with like attachment and emotional tendencies in partnerships as well, because this card, you know, can sometimes depict like partners, you know, being handcuffed together. So it's like release attachment, embrace connection. Anyways, that's all I have for you, Sagittarius. Thank you so much for watching. I hope the horoscope resonated, and if it did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye. I love you. Okay, now moving on to Aries rising. So hello, Aries. If you're seeing this, this would be your horoscope for August 24th through August 30th. As always, I've written down everything I want to talk about. But anyways, Aries, I actually think that this will be a very, how do I say, relieving week, because we are going to see, the lunar eclipse in Pisces on the 28th, the final one. And for you, this will be in your 12th house. And, simultaneously, we will be seeing a Mercury Cazimi in a square with Uranus. And this will be over your 6th and your 3rd house. So, especially with a square with, like, it's forming a T-square on your 12th, your 6th, and your 3rd house. So I definitely think that there will be a lot of push and pull this week when it comes to what you feel you need to do, what you really need to do, and what you feel like doing. Does that make sense? So I definitely think that this week will just be one of those times where a lot of you have to be very selective about your time and how you decide to invest your energy. And it may be very draining for you, and I think that it will come with some spiritual lessons and a lot of release, and a lot of you may have some interesting dreams. And it makes me think that there is a lot of subconscious purging with the lunation in your 6th, or your 12th house. It just gives the vibe that a lot of you will be so busy that being alone and taking time for yourself and doing the things that you appreciate doing will help you release, and it will help you let go of things in your old noggin here, because it just, every time there's a 6th and a 12th house thing going on, you know, oppositions and whatnot, it's indicative of realizing and thinking very deeply about where you are investing your time and where you are being responsible versus where you aren't. So where do your priorities lie? And you may notice that that is a ongoing question throughout the course of this week. And I highly suggest that when you're asking it, you take time for yourself and don't be afraid to write things down. I definitely think that Uranus in your 3rd house will allow you to come up with some pretty innovative solutions and new conclusions that you otherwise wouldn't have drawn had you not organized it. This may also be a time where a lot of you are wanting to hit up like a therapist or something, or like a psychologist, or you may also just randomly decide to start going to certain people to consult for help and assistance. It doesn't even have to be related to like mental health. It could be related to like bodily health as well. And especially because Mars is coming into a square with Saturn next week, but you'll probably start feeling it this week. And I very much think that it will challenge your body in some way. I think it will restrict your body in some way. Be flexible and be wary of like injuries, especially to like the bones and the chest area, because Mars is in Cancer, so Cancer is like the chest area and like the bones, so that could be significant for some of you. And I think I'm going to keep saying this, but I wanted to say that the beginning of the week and the end of the week will have a pretty similar flavor. Can you tell I'm hungry? Because the moon will be in Capricorn at the start of the week, but then at the end of the week after the eclipse, the moon will move through Aries. And when the moon's in Capricorn, it will square Saturn, but when the moon's in Aries, it will conjunct Saturn. So same but diff, you know? And over your 10th house, I heavily feel like this will be related to your career and your status. You know, of course, that's been kind of like the name of the game for a little bit here. But I also just think that this is a time where a lot of you could be revising something about your long-term goals, and it just seems like when the moon's in Aries, a lot of you will be more intuitively guided to make certain decisions. And how I want to translate it is, it feels like with the moon in your first house, or you know, the moon in Capricorn interacting with your first house and with your 10th house ruler, it's very like, I want to do this, this, and this, but I have to wait, or I can't do that right now, or my family needs me, or I have to stay home, or oh, that's too far away, oh, I don't really have the resources for that right now, you know? So especially with Venus in Libra as well, a lot of you may be, you know, very focused on your partnerships, on your home, and, you know, people in your life. So you may kind of feel like your personal goals, or like what you want to accomplish in your career and status right now, is sort of being stifled, or you're having to sort of like double back on it. Or it might be that your career is being restricted anyhow, and then a lot of you are therefore putting energy into other areas of your life and enriching your personal life. So definitely don't take anything as like a bad thing right now, Aries. I think that a lot of you are right where you need to be, and I think that this is tempering you so that you're able to build like a very strong foundation for yourself. And I feel like the full moon eclipse in your 12th house is very conducive to that, because a lot of you are releasing self-sabotaging tendencies, and therefore it goes back to, you know, like building a foundation, being patient, and cultivating more love and connection with not only people around you, but also your home, your family, your background, and your upbringing, and yourself. And especially because you'll also slowly start to feel a Jupiter trine Saturn throughout the course of this week. So a lot of you, a lot of fire signs, especially you, could be getting into something creative, doing something that you love, being more expressive, and doing the things that you just want to do, you know? Healing in your inner child in some way. And this could be because you're not really able to focus on your career as much, because you may feel kind of lost in this area. I think a lot of Aries placements right now are like, should I go back to school? Should I do this master's program? Should I do an internship? Should I go back to this job? Should I do this, but I don't get paid enough there? You know, a lot of that. So take your time, Aries. In the middle of the week, right before the eclipse, the moon will also move through Aquarius. I like this because it's going to trine Uranus, it's going to trine Venus, and conjunct Pluto. Definitely with the conjunction of Pluto, a lot of you may deal with like an aggressive friend, or maybe there could be a lot of shifts when it comes to how you bond and connect with collective groups of people. And there may also be like a bringing down of some sort of like a goal, like the curtain may be pulled in, like something about your dreams and what you wanted to accomplish in the long term may be revealed in some way. And then when the moon trines Uranus and Venus, I think that this is a partner or a friend coming through. And there may also be like random shifts with like friendships, especially if you feel like there's a friend who's like secretly in love with you, or if there is something going on with a friend and their partner. But I like the trine to Venus a lot. I think that somebody will get you a gift, or a lot of you may receive something very nice, or like a wish may be fulfilled by another person, or like a dream that you have will be completed. Especially if it's like business related, if you have like business partnerships and you want to work with a certain person. I cannot show every image on here, but this is the Two of Swords. There's no like violence or anything, but this is a pretty vicious card in my eyes, because I feel like the Two of Swords kind of represents being very indecisive. It's very like, should I do this? Should I do that? And in the typical writer way, and even in this image, she is blindfolded and it is nighttime. So in the typical writer way, there's also water behind her. But these swords are going into, I'm just noticing how both of them are in one side of her. It makes me think of like one side of her shoulder. So it's like the devil and the angel, you know? So I feel like a lot of you are in the midst of like pros and cons right now. And I'm just hearing like, don't go chasing waterfalls. So I just think that you know what's the safer option right now, and you know what you should be doing, so that you don't completely uproot different areas of your life, which is not something that you want to do right now. But I think the message here is that you will get to where you want to be. It will just not be as quick as it used to be, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, because I think you'll be able to savor your victories and really appreciate yourself more, Aries. I feel like so you all can be very like, get one thing done, move on to the next, you know? This is a great opportunity for a lot of y'all to just put one foot in front of the other and really acknowledge each step and appreciate that. So that's all I have for you, Aries. Thank you so much for watching. I hope the horoscope resonated, and if it did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye. I love you. Okay, now moving on to Taurus rising. So hello, Taurus. If you're seeing this, this will be your horoscope for August 24th through August 30th. As always, I've written down everything that I want to talk about. And the highlight of this week, as we all know, Taurus, is the 28th, when we will see the, it's like 27, 28, when we will see the lunar eclipse in Pisces, which will be in your 11th house, with a Mercury Cazimi in your 5th house, in a square with Uranus in your 2nd. That's a lot of stuff, isn't it? But I think that the fact that your 11th, 5th, and 2nd house are involved, I like this for you, because I think that it's very putting out art, you know, putting out something that you care about and putting out something that is important to you. It doesn't have to be art. I'm just using that as an example because we have Jupiter in Leo, so it's like very art focused right now. Excuse me. And so I think that a lot of you are thinking about opening work up or opening up like a business of some sort, because the 2nd house is your money. And if you're honest there, I definitely think that a lot of you are coming up with like innovative ways to invest, use, and make money. And with the 5th and 11th house square, which is about like performing and audiences, it could be, you know, related to that. But this may also be related to what you want to do versus like a social circle and what others may be doing. So a lot of you may feel as though you have some sort of idea or concept that not a lot of other people are doing, and perhaps you're wanting to capitalize or act on it in some way, whether it just be that you're wanting to do it for yourself just for fun and playtime, or whether it be that you're wanting to do it for something a lot more lucrative in a monetary sense. But the eclipse is happening in your 11th house, which definitely makes me think that a lot of you will be dealing with something with your social circles and your friend groups 1000%. And this is in Pisces, ruled by Jupiter in your 4th. So maybe with people whom like your family, or like friends that you consider family, or family that you consider like friends, you know? So this may be a sector of your life that is lit up, and it may be drawing up some conclusions, especially when it comes to like your future and what you want to accomplish, because that's what the 11th house can deal with. It's very like your hopes and dreams, like I want to do this in the next 5 years, you know? So I think that a lot of you are getting more serious about that, and you are probably refining your social circles more, because I've noticed that a lot of Taurus placements have been very deep in thought when it comes to connecting with other people. And now that with Mars in your 3rd house, your 7th house ruler, it probably is related to communication, ideas, and the internet. So I almost wonder if a lot of you are just wanting to meet people more organically, or if you're wanting to network a lot more in a more productive way, in a more optimistic way. Pisces is a very optimistic sign, so I don't believe that this eclipse for you will be very aggressive. I think that it will just be very emotional for you in like a good or bad way, who knows? But I think that it will definitely chalk up some sort of like a conclusion for you that will allow you to move forward, because this is sextiling your ascendant, so it's allowing you to push forward in something with the aforementioned things, but it only will happen if you take the opportunity or you take what's in front of you. So a lot of you may be able to meet somebody that's very fated, or it will change your life in some way, and it could be through the media. And I've been saying that the beginning of the week will be very similar to the end of the week, because the beginning of the week, the moon will be in Capricorn, it will square Saturn, but then at the end of the week after the eclipse, the moon will be in Aries and it will conjunct Saturn. So it's very like same but diff. And the moon will be in your 9th house, it will square it will square Saturn in your 12th. So I definitely think that the end of the week will entail something about travel, going somewhere that you've never been before, and stepping into new horizons. And that's very literal, but it could also be that you all are taking some sort of class and wanting to develop more spiritually. The 12th house is about places like churches and like monasteries and places of isolation, healing, maybe like a hospital. This could be very much y'all, especially with the conjunction of Saturn. So I wouldn't be surprised if you're one of those Taurus risings where if you've been going back and forth with your health, you may like go back to the hospital this week, or you may have to like, you know, especially with Mars, the ruler of your 12th house, being in the 3rd house, it's very like trying to look for certain services or looking for the right people to consult to assist you with something. Now that Chiron is in your 1st house, so a lot of you are probably having some sort of like irritability, especially with like your throat or like your thyroids. That's what I've heard Taurus can deal with. So I think that that could be some of you, but a lot of others of you, it could just be that you all are developing in a new, more philosophical or spiritual way. And then at the end of the week, there will be some sort of call to like isolate and think for yourself a little bit. Because I feel like Saturn restricted in 12th very much gives like structure, you know, like wanting to commit more to like a higher system or belief, but doing so more in a way that is actually helpful to you, or following by the books in a way that's helpful to you, especially you like as a Taurus. It makes me think of like the Hierophant, you know, so it's like you want structure, you want order, and I very much think that Saturn in your 12th is incentivizing you to do so via like spirituality and even religion for some of you. But for others of you, it could be through like traveling and like wanting to develop your own philosophies and worldviews. Especially with all this stuff going on in your 11th house, it's very much giving like, okay, like I don't want to follow the herd anymore. Like I want to do what's important to me. And in the middle of the week, we will see Jupiter come into a trine with Saturn, and this, or no, excuse me, that will be happening at the beginning of next week, but you'll start to feel it this week. And I just think that Jupiter trining Saturn, Jupiter being in your 4th house, it could, a lot of what I just mentioned with like, you know, like spirituality could be related to your family and teachings being passed down from generation to generation, especially on your father's side of the family. And then in the middle of the week, the moon will be in Aquarius. It will, right before the eclipse, it will be in Aquarius, and it will trine Uranus and Venus in conjunct Pluto. The conjunction of Pluto is pretty vicious. I think that in your 10th house, there will be something going on of like your career and like power struggles and perhaps waiting on news. But with the trine of Uranus and Venus, I like that a lot. I think that a lot of you could be like getting back to the basics of like your own business, with your own work, coming up with, like I said, your own sources of income, being a little bit more savvy in this sense. And when the moon's in Capricorn and Aries, it will square Venus, but in the middle of the week, it will trine Venus. So I think the middle of the week is a very great time for things like launching websites, for announcing things, posting advertisements, flyers, the media, and posting on social media. Very good time to do that. The beginning and end of the week might not be such a great time to do that. Might be a little bit frustrating if you ask me. In the middle of the week as well, there may be something going on of like your routine and like your obligation. So the beginning and the end of the week may just be like a very busy time for you, and I just kind of recommend against trying to schedule something very important. It might be like literally like what, like the end of the 25th and 26th and beginning of the 27th. That's like not a bad time to get stuff done and, you know, get on your A game with your own entrepreneurial pursuits or the things that you are wanting to do. Like nobody else like requires it from you. It's just something that you want to do. For you, we have, I'm going to cover up, we have Judgment. So I very much feel like this is the eclipse. It's making you think, it's making you revise, and it makes me think of somebody sitting on a rock for some reason and like looking off into the horizon. This also makes me think of Howl's Moving Castle, this imagery, you know, the feathers. So especially if it's related to like connection and relationships, I just feel like this is a time where a lot of you are revising something and looking at the longevity of something and maybe interacting with the past, you know, like when Sophie like goes back to the past and tells little Hal. So a lot of you may be reconnecting with like the past in some way, or maybe going back and like looking back on past relationships. This doesn't have to be related to relationships. I'm just using it. It can be applied as a metaphor for something else. But I think that a lot of you are reflecting on the past and thinking very much more deeply on how you want to move forward in the present and the future and what you want to do differently. Not a bad thing to do. So take your time, Taurus. Anyways, that's all I have for you, Taurus. Thank you so much for watching. I hope the horoscope resonated, and if it did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye. Alright, now moving on to Gemini rising. So hello, Gemini. If you're seeing this, this will be your horoscope for August 24th through August 30th. I've written down everything I want to talk about, and this week will be very important for all of us, but for you, I think the way you feel it will be very personal, because on the 28th is when we see the lunar eclipse in Pisces, 27, 28, and the same time we will see a Mercury Cazimi in Virgo in your 4th house, which will also be in a square with Uranus in your 1st house. So your chart ruler coming into a conjunction with the sun in your fourth in a square with Uranus in your sign. So there's definitely a lot going on here with your living situation. And because Gemini itself is about siblings and immediate relatives, and then Virgo is about service and work, a lot of you may notice that there is something going on here with this dynamic having to be of service to your family or coming up with new innovative ways to help your family, especially if you feel like your family is needing you or you need them, but there's some sort of disconnect there and you're trying to compensate that disconnect with some sort of like innovative new way to compensate for labor and time. Because I have noticed that a lot of Gemini risings have sort of had their hands tied because of like their living situation and your home. This could also be about like transportation. This could also be about, you know, how you're moving around and how you're getting around and whatnot. So I would imagine that this will be one of those lunations that kind of reveals something to you, especially with the full moon happening in your 10th house. So it's forming a T-square on your side of the chart. So that's why another reason why I think this is very personal. And so a lot of the things I mentioned could be related to your career and your work and whatever it is that you're trying to do. Especially since this is like a completion, you know, like this is the end of something. So a lot of you could be wrapping up something, especially if you have resigned from a job recently or gotten fired or terminated, or if there has just been something going on with your career that you are kind of waiting on, or there's like been a temporary arrangement and it's not been very ideal. I definitely think that this will be a time where people are coming up to you and coming up with innovative solutions and helping you. So I definitely think that with the Cazimi happening in your 4th house in Virgo, assistance and help could be coming in from your family or your home or vice versa, where you are helping them. And kind of back to my original point. And the nice thing about this as well is that Mercury rules your 7th house. So a lot of you could be signing something. So maybe some of you are signing leases or moving, or, you know, like this could just be like you are helping someone move. But anyhow, aside from all that, I also want to mention that the beginning of the week will feel quite similar to the end of the week, like same but diff, because the beginning of the week, the moon will be in Capricorn. It will square Saturn and Venus. And then at the end of the week, the moon will be in Aries after the eclipse, and it will oppose Venus and square Saturn. So it's like very like similar and, you know, both harsh aspects to these two planets, you know, Saturn and Venus. And so this is between your 8th house and your 11th house. So this is a pretty difficult square in my eyes, in the sense that a lot of you may be rethinking like a lot of your long-term goals, and this could be very conducive to the eclipse, where a lot of you may feel like your current arrangement will not help you get to where you want to be long-term. But obviously the 8th and 11th house, the 8th house makes me think of like death and rebirth, resurrection, and then the 11th house makes me think of like social circles, your dreams, and who you want to be around, who you want to be. So these two interactions may be colliding a lot. And with the eclipse that happens in your 10th house, it may be that a lot of you are going through like a full-blown existential crisis, or wondering how you can kind of double back on something with your career or other dreams. You can use your career as like a metaphor for other things, you know, but I feel pretty confident in saying that because the eclipse in your 10th. But anyways, so I also want to say that this could be something about like shared resources with other people, especially if you have been trying to hit up like a system, or if you have been trying to get assistance from like networking and friend groups. So opportunities may be coming through here, especially from like an older person, and it could be lending you some money, or it could be lending you some sort of external resource. But I just kind of see this as like a very deeply contemplative time. And for some of you, it could be related to your father. And then in the middle of the week, right before the eclipse, we will see the moon move through Aquarius. It will trine Uranus and Venus and conjunct Pluto. So this is all within your 9th house. So middle of the week, a lot of you could be exposed to new ideas and a lot of new people. And there could be something going on here when it comes to traveling And because Venus has rulership over, Venus is currently in your 5th house. So I think that a lot of y'all Gemini risings have been having a little bit of fun with Venus in your 5th, especially because she's happy in Libra and she's really happy in the 5th house. So I think that this could be a time where a lot of you, especially in the middle of the week, are unexpectedly going out, traveling, going farther than you usually do. And this will be forming like some air trines in your chart. And with the conjunction of Pluto, I kind of see the conjunction of Pluto as like take it easy, you know, like have fun in moderation and try not to push yourself too much. Because of Pluto having rulership over your 6th house, I kind of see this as a lot of you may have been having some tendencies to overdo it in the pleasure department. And I think that especially with Mars also in your 2nd house, it could be like manifesting as like shopping, buying stuff, or like emotional insecurity manifesting as like self-destruction, or like delving into material things. So I feel like this week with Mercury in the Cazimi in your 4th house, I think that this is like a great opportunity for a lot of you to develop new routines when it comes to your home, your sleep and wake cycle, and your routines and health. So going to the gym, maybe establishing something at home to where you can work out at home or do something at home. Virgo is about like diets. So, and then Mars in your 2nd house, it makes me think of like detoxing or something. So, and then with the 8th and 11th house square, a lot of you could also be refinancing something, or a lot of you could be setting up like a financial situation in your life a little bit more differently as well. And this doesn't exact on this week, but next week we will be feeling the Jupiter trine Saturn, and then Mars coming into square with Saturn. So Saturn being in your 11th, I think that there's going to be a lot going on here when it comes to your social circles. But because it's an Aries, Aries over the 11th house makes me think of like trying to establish yourself amongst others, like who you are, and trying to be around other unique individuals. And because it's opposing your 5th house Libra, it's like wanting to get to know people and possibly setting some boundaries when it comes to your interests and learning to do whatever it is that you like to do and facing your demons alone as opposed to through other people. So I think that there could be a lot of potential for projection here, but I also think that there could be a lot of potential for a lot of you to go to some unanswered wounds within yourself when it comes to your sense of personality and your sense of self. And it could be related to your own belief systems and values. I feel like the way I'm painting this week sounds very difficult and annoying, but I generally think that it's a very cathartic time for you, Gemini. Yeah, we have the 4 of Cups. This makes me think of like, it just makes me think of number 4, so like your 4th house, but it makes me think of like, what do you want next? And I'm kind of seeing how he has all 4 cups and he has like these tentacles holding them up. And then I'm like thinking of like, oh, octopuses, you know, like always like changing according to their environment to save themselves. So with the nature of the 4 of Cups, it makes me think that a lot of you could be trying to not blend in anymore. And by not blending in and by establishing yourself and not always, you know, being sort of like a chameleon, you're able to be a lot more decisive and more concise about what it is that you're craving and what it is that you want to keep for yourself and how you identify. So I definitely think that this will be like a very meditative week for you, but I think it will feel very good because you're able to think independently and exclusively for yourself. Anyways, that's all I have for you, Gemini. Thank you so much for watching. I hope the horoscope resonated, and if it did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye, I love you. All right, now moving on to Cancer rising. So hello, Cancer. If you're seeing this, this will be your horoscope for August 24th through August 30th. And of course, I've written down everything that I want to talk about. I didn't run out of sticky notes. Anyways, these aren't even sticky. They're just little... Anyways, so obviously we gotta talk about the lunar eclipse in Pisces, you being ruled by the moon, now we've seen. And honestly, Cancer, I feel like you'll like this lunation because it's happening in your 9th house, and this will be on like the 27th, 28th. The thing that adds flavor and seasoning to this lunation is that we will simultaneously see a Mercury Cazimi. Typical Mercurials not minding their own business, but a Mercury Cazimi, and it will also square Uranus. And Mercury, and this will all be in Virgo, so between your 3rd and your 9th house, and then this will all come into a square with Uranus, who is in your 12th house. Yeah, in your 12th house. So it kind of seems, this is like a pretty peculiar thing in my eyes, because the only thing that's very suitable, like very obvious here, is the Cazimi in your 3rd house. It definitely suggests that a lot of you are revising your routine and you're sort of taking care of business as per usual. So I wouldn't be surprised if from here on out, leading up until like the beginning of September, a lot of you are trying to perfect or get really good at something, or if you're just trying to make sure that something is like set into place so you don't have to worry about it so much. Like you're trying to develop habits, here's what I'm trying to say. And then with the lunation in your 9th house, about like your beliefs, your philosophies, it could be because you're also doing this because of traveling, because of school, because you're trying to like reach for something more. Those could just be some examples, but I feel very confident in saying that a lot of you are stepping into new territory, and this is very much conducive to the square to Uranus in your 12th house. 12th house is like things we can't see, and Gemini. So a lot of you may be feeling very anxious around this time, but this also leads me to believe that this could be a time where you really like that energy because you have like this inner reservoir that you aren't aware of, and it's related to your mind. So it's like you have a lot of capacity right now to learn new things and try out unexpected projects and delve into new skill sets. So I think that a lot of you should lean into this notion, because I think that this will be one of those weeks where you're able to kind of start being a jack of all trades, especially with Saturn in your 10th, because we will see the moon in Capricorn and the moon in Aries. Moon in Capricorn in the beginning of the week and Aries at the end of the week come into a square with Saturn or conjunct Saturn. So it's very same but diff, the beginning and end of the week. And you may be having to deal with more frustrations with like your career and what it is that you want to do. But I kind of get the vibe that the moon in Cap or like the lunar eclipse is helping you develop new skills or open up another doorway for yourself, so that you don't have to be tethered to like a career or like a work situation, you know? It could even be related to your family, especially since Venus is in your 4th right now. So there could be something going on right now where you're having to be of service or you're having to work, or like with Jupiter, your 6th house ruler being in your 2nd house, like there's just like a lot of things right now that you're sort of having to do because of like your financial situation, or just because of the way that your life is set up at the moment. Especially if you're one of those Cancer risings who's living far away from home. I noticed that a lot of y'all have been moving out, moving away, or, you know, going to even like foreign lands to study and whatnot. So this could just be one of those weeks where there is completion there. Like a lot of you could literally just be like entering like a graduate program or something. But I also want to say that right before the eclipse, we will see the moon in Aquarius. It will trine Uranus and Venus and conjunct Pluto. And I really want you to take advantage of this, Cancer. And I was just like really thinking about this the other day, because like your 8th house is ruled by Aquarius. And when the moon's moving through there, a lot of you will be able to go through like a resurrection or like a death of like a dream or something that you have envisioned, and it will allow you to release. Like Pluto is helping you let go of something, and with Pluto ruling your 5th house, it could be related to like performance, it could be related to putting yourself out there, living more truthfully, and living, you know, like Aquarius is audience and the 8th house is like death. So it's like literally giving the death of like a collective of like where you want to perform and where you want to be perceived, you know, like seeking out new social circles, seeking out new friend groups. And this could be very conducive to the eclipse, where it's like you're moving far, so of course you have to, you know, come up with new social circles or like find new people to be around. And with the trine of Venus and Uranus, there could be good graces with a woman in your family. I totally wouldn't be surprised if a lot of you receive money from family members this week, especially with the Kazemi. I keep thinking like, oh, like I get the sense that a lot of you could be asked to do favors, like dog sit, water the plants, or maybe there's something that you know how to do and someone's gonna ask you to help, and then they'll be like, oh, like if you do this, I can, you know, lend you $50, or oh, you know, if you do this, I'll like give you $30 or something, or oh, if you do this, I'll do this for you, or if you do this, you don't have to pay me back for that anymore, you know? So very that. So I think that there will be a major emphasis on doing favors and scratching other people's back throughout the course of this week as well. And I really want you to pay attention to the beginning and end of this week, because I think that eclipse, excuse me, will kind of just pass you by. It will just be kind of like, it'll just happen, and a lot of you will gain what you need to gain from it, because it's trining your ascendant, and a trine is effortless. Like you don't put anything really into it, or you don't take, it just happens, you know, and you just kind of go with it. But in the beginning and end of the week, when the moon's in Capricorn, and then it moves into Aries later, it's going to square your ascendant, and it's going to form some T-squares. So it will be first your 7th house, then your 10th house. So I definitely think throughout the course of this week as well, there will be something going on with like your interpersonal relationships and business relationships as well. I know I've been saying for like the past few weeks now that there's like a lot of stuff going on with your career, and I think that this will be another one of those weeks where you are noticing like the responsibilities piling up. And I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of you have like set responsibilities that you need to take care of, and whenever we see the moon come into squares or aspects with Saturn, it's very much you having to tend to those responsibilities, and they're like set into place, which I feel like plays off of, you know, the stuff we've been seeing in Virgo and the stuff we will see in Virgo. So it's like diversifying your skill set, learning new things, working in new departments, or, you know, like getting back to the basics in some way. And I just think that a lot of you could be using this, on the other hand, to develop new skills for yourself, especially if you're trying to be a business owner, or if you're trying to look for new jobs or look for new places that you can practice your skills more. It's very like, oh, I graduated with this degree, but I'm working this job that doesn't have anything to do with it. I want a job that's more, works with that, you know? So I just think that this week will be kind of like a reiteration of a lot of the weeks that you've seen before, but with a little bit more faith, with a little bit more belief, and with a little bit more of this idea that you are trying to break free and trying to go somewhere new. So I think that a lot of you could be receiving like an acceptance letter or some sort of like good news, and it will be kind of like the ending of the South Node and North Node journey in Pisces and Virgo. Speaking to, I don't know why. Yeah, for you, okay, I cannot show. We have the High Priestess. So it very much makes me think that a lot of the things that you're doing right now, like you might feel like you're on a roller coaster that you can't get off of, that's going in circles, and you may feel as though your life is a little bit redundant. You know, I feel like even when I give you readings, sometimes it's very like, sometimes repetitive, but I feel like that's very reflective of your life right now. Like you might be feeling like you're going round and round and you have your hands tied, but the High Priestess here is saying that growth is happening without you noticing it. Things are happening behind the scenes and in your subconscious that you aren't aware of, which is very much reflecting Uranus in your 12th house. There's subtle changes and a lot of new things coming up in your subconscious that you will not be completely aware. So I guess the message here and what I want to say is, the effort that you're putting in now and the patterns that you are getting yourself into is not a bad thing. It shows that you are learning. It shows that you are growing slowly but surely. And I think that you will be able to break yourself out of these patterns later on, and it will be through the help of Uranus in your 12th. Anyways, that is all I have for you, Cancer. Thank you so much for watching. I hope the horoscope resonated, and if it did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye. I love you. Okay, now moving on to Leo rising. So hello, Leo. If you're seeing this, this would be your horoscope for August 24th through August 30th. As per usual, I've written down everything that I want to talk about. And honestly, Leo, so the highlight of this week is the lunar eclipse in Pisces, like 27, 28, and it will happen right in your 8th house. And girl, this will be featured with a Mercury Cazimi in your 2nd, with a square to Uranus in your 11th. Now, I think that this is a very, very topsy-turvy eclipse for you, and it's very much related to your finances. I have noticed that almost all Leo risings have still been grappling with like a lot of deep emotions when it comes to like boundaries, spirituality, and also trauma, but also a lot of stuff going on with your finances. And I very much think that there will be another hurdle to overcome by the end of this week, before you get into September and the rest of Virgo season. And I really like the Cazimi in your 2nd house. I think that this is money coming in, or I think that this is like some sort of assistance coming in, or like, you know, Virgo wants to organize and rearrange. So it makes me think like organizing or rearranging your finances based on an illumination in your 8th house. So it's like the rearranging of finances based on like a debt, a tax, or an insurance, or some kind of bill that needs to be taken care of. And then with the square to Uranus in your 11th house, this could involve your friend groups. This could involve like a union or like a group of some sort. But this could also just be that a lot of you are rearranging according to unexpected changes that you foresee coming in the future, because that's what the 11th house can be, you know, like things you see, like visions that you have. So a lot of you could just be trying to prepare for something, and it could just be that you're trying to like double back on it, you know? And I think that this could also be related to your family in a little bit. So anyways, I also think that because it's in your 11th house, I very much think that a lot of you will be able to use social media or like the internet as some sort of like unexpected form of currency. I have been noticing that some Leo risings are wanting to open up business again, especially with Venus in your third. I think that a lot of you are taking a more interest in learning new things, new skill sets, and delving into the media and using the internet as a means of money, especially if you're one of those people that's getting into like crypto or like digital currency, or if you're just trying to find new innovative ways to make your money. And a lot of you could also be delving into things like making websites or even sending in applications. I think that with Venus finishing, or like Venus still being in your third house, and then with Venus coming into, or like the moon will be in Aquarius in the middle of the week. So like more like the kind of beginning chunk of it, like the 25th, 26th. It will trine Uranus and Venus. So I think that the 25th and 26th, if you're doing anything like looking for a job, wanting to make a phone call or an appointment, this could be a really good time to do something like that. Or sending an application. So, and because it's like very beauty related, a lot of you, or like the 7th house, a lot of you could be consulting a lawyer, a lot of you could be consulting another person or receiving news from something like that. But because of the associations with Libra, it could also be beauty related. So really good time to hit up your esthetician or like get a facial or like a massage or something like that. And this could also just be like making a good friend. Maybe you're talking to a good friend on the phone, socializing, internet. I think the beginning of the week will be pretty fun for you. And I like the 24th, 25th too, because the beginning of this start, the moon will be in Capricorn. And I've been saying that the beginning of the week will be very reminiscent of the end of the week. It's like very same but diff, because the moon will be in Capricorn at the start. It will square Saturn and Venus. But then at the end of the week, the moon will be in Aries. It will oppose Venus and square Saturn. So it's kind of like same flavors almost. But the moon in Cap, it's your 6th house. So I think the start of the week, there's a lot of business to take care of. There will be work to do. I think that a lot of you will be going back and forth of like a bigger institution, and a lot of you could also be having to travel, or it could be that you are foreseeing travels in the future and you're having to take care of like services, whatnot. This could even just be family doing something, or just somebody that you know is doing something and they are requesting that you like watch their dog for them, or you take care of their plants while they're gone, or maintain. Or this might just be like extra obligations being piled on top of you at work, and it may just be that a lot of you are having to develop new skill sets or learn something new in order to pursue more. I also think that this is very much related to your health. So I think that a lot of you may be expanding and wanting to, because the 9th house makes me think of like formal education, learning more, reading books, and like the 6th house is about like health as well. So a lot of you could be trying to look into new ways to innovate and help and bring more discipline into your health sector of your life. Or this could also be something about pets and animals, and you're trying to take care of them and you're having to, like go out of your way to assist them. And throughout the course of this week as well, we are going to see Jupiter come into a trine with Saturn. This will exact the beginning of next week, but I'm mentioning it now because you will probably start to feel it by the end of this week. And Jupiter will trine Saturn and Mars will square Saturn, and you need to pay attention to that. Or no, Mars will... Yeah, it will square Saturn. You need to pay attention to that aspect, because I have been noticing that Mars in y'all's 12th house has not been a vibe. A lot of you have been dealing with like home and family and security stuff, especially with your mother. Some of you, I have read your comments saying that like your mother has been like hospitalized, which is very like Mars in the 12th. Like Mars is like conflict, and like Cancer is like the mother, and the 12th house is like hospitals, or like like rehab centers, or like prisons, or places of like resting and healing. And Mars could be about like incisions and surgery. So a lot of you may be having to like double back and take care of somebody. But other than that, this could also be just like, I very much see it as with Jupiter in your first, now in a trine with Saturn, belief, faith, philosophy, new perspectives, and perhaps even moving somewhere else, and it being done very easily. I think that will be very helpful. And I feel like if you are going through something like that with the eclipse in your 8th house, it could be that you're getting some sort of like a payout, or you are getting some sort of like a what's it called, like SSI. So that could be relevant for some of you as well. But I think to sum it up, really, I see this week as a huge hurdle to cross over when it comes to your emotions, when it comes to your sense of security. And I think that a lot of you will be slowly going through and finishing up another transformation that has been going on for like the past year and a half. And it will be very cathartic, and it will allow you to rearrange your self-confidence, because the skills that you possess now and the things that you know now are, it's that much more wider and more versatile than like you would have ever thought in the past like year and a half. Like, you learned a lot is what I'm trying to say here. When stuff moves through your second house, it puts you through some things, and once you get through it, you're like, hey, yo, like, I'm kind of invincible, you know? And because it's in Virgo, it is your ability to organize and see things critically and be analytical, Leo. And I feel like that will be something that really helps you get through this week. So you may kind of go into this week noticing that you're having to reorganize a lot of things and kind of like prepare for something else. But it will come to you a little bit more easily than usual, because Mercury is in a sign that it likes to be in. So it's like your second house ruler is able to pay attention to all the little details. Let's see. Yeah, the Chariot, this card's ruled by Cancer. So a lot of you could be moving. A lot of you could be changing up your living situation. But this is also about like emotional movement and like moving forward, some sort of like a direction. So I think that this week it's giving you some sort of like a heads up, or it's informing you or letting you know of something. And I think that a lot of you will be able to finally start pushing forward and doing new things. So I really like this card for you, Leo, especially if you've been feeling like you're kind of floating by, or you're kind of like in a waiting period, or you're kind of stagnant, or you're not really sure what to do. I think that this week is very much the ending of something, which will also suggest the beginning of moving forward to new horizons. Anyways, that's all I have for you, Leo. Thank you so much for watching. I hope the horoscope resonated, and if it did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye, I love you. Okay, now moving on to Virgo rising. So hello, Virgo. If you're seeing this, this would be your horoscope for August 24th through August 30th. I'm being kind of quiet because it's like 9 in the morning right now. But as always, I've written down everything that I'd like to talk about. And I think that this will be a really nice week for you, Virgo. I think it will be a nice week in that things will get done and there will be some important conclusions. But it won't, I don't want to say that it will be like a good week because it will be like a good week. I think it will be a good week because you feel like you're getting some answers, and now you're able to conclude some ongoing things in your life. Because around like the 27th, 28th, it's kind of like both days, we're going to see a lunar eclipse in Pisces, and then we will also see a Mercury cazimi, which will be in a square with Uranus. So this is forming a T-square in the top half of your chart between your 1st, 10th, and 7th house. So I would imagine that there's a lot of things going on with your relationships, because that's where the lunar eclipse is, in your 7th house. So I kind of see this as two major things. On one hand, I kind of see it as a like a business thing, you know, like shaking hands with somebody, a business offer kind of going through. And especially if you've been trying to partner up with somebody, or if you have been, you know, if like a square to Uranus is kind of given like partnering up with somebody whom you usually wouldn't partner up with. And because Gemini is like neighbors, I almost wonder if it would be like, obviously I don't know what business you're in, but you know, live like a partnership with a department or a place that is right next to you. So like a neighbor, if you know what I'm saying. But this could also be unexpected changes and shifts in your interpersonal relationships. And because the cazimi is in your 1st house and the sun is there, and the sun is the ruler of your 12th house, it kind of seems like a lot of you are drawing up some unexpected conclusions or stepping into a territory that you wouldn't have been before. And because the sun represents endings in your chart with like the 12th house rulership or association, it kind of makes me think, and like, you know, it's a full moon lunar eclipse. I feel like a lot of you are closing out some sort of journey within a relationship. So it's like finally letting go of somebody, cutting cords, but maybe even in a continuing relationship, like setting major intentions that may be changing around your career, or it may be that through changes in your career, you're able to move forward in your interpersonal relationships, especially if it involves anything with like your family or your living situation. And you know, a lot of you, I've been saying for the past few weeks and even months that you could be stepping into new horizons with your educational path. So this could also be related. And that's why I'm kind of like, I want to double back and say, like, that's why I'm kind of saying that this may be a week where things are finally moving along and you're getting some answers and you're chalking up some conclusions and deciding on something. So definitely use that Kazemi to your advantage. I think that this will be a very enlightening week for you. And it's kind of like the week is starting and ending in like a similar flavor, because at the beginning of the week, the moon's going to be in Capricorn. It will square Venus and Saturn. That's every morning. Anyways, and then at the end of the week, the moon will be in Aries and it will conjunct Saturn and oppose Venus. So both times the moon will be in a cardinal sign, forming some harsh aspects to Venus and Saturn. But the beginning of the week, it could be related to your children. I know that a lot of you have been dealing, especially like, you know, if you do have kids, like this could be a lot about like their, like the financing of them, or something about their education, or just like taking care of them. And because it's Saturn the 8th, it could also be that a lot of you are going through a lot of internal transformations of your own when it comes to your inner child and your ability to express creativity. But it may also just be that a lot of you are trying to take more control in an aspect of your life that it's kind of hard to take control. Like you're trying to manage something based on what you're receiving. You know, like 8th house is like other resources, and like the 5th house is like what you want to do. So it's like a lot of you could be having to manage yourself a little bit differently in order to calibrate how much you're getting from an external system, you know. And it could be like based on like income or something, and you know, a lot of you could be on like pay stuff. But my best piece of advice to you is to lean into the square to Venus. Venus is in your 2nd house. So a lot of you may be feeling a sort of friction to pay attention to your money. And because Libra likes to balance, Libra likes to sign contracts and shake hands and know what it is working with, I think that there will be a certain black and white air to your financial situation in the beginning of the week. And I feel like a lot of you will like leaning into that, because there will be less nuance and more like, okay, it's either this or this. And I think that a lot of you will appreciate working with that, especially with the oncoming Kazemi in your 1st house. So it's very much like, okay, I'm going to organize it this way, set it up this way. But then at the end of the week, when the moon is in Aries, a lot of you may find it like, I kind of see the beginning of the week as like setting up something, and then the end of the week seeing the payoff of it. Do you see what I mean? Especially if you are signing up for some sort of like a tax benefit or like SSI, or you know, if you're just trying to manage your taxes differently for the upcoming season. But I also think that Venus with the square, a lot of you could be traveling or commuting, because Venus has ties with your 9th house. So, and a lot of you may be thinking about like, is it like efficient to be like commuting? Is it efficient to be traveling like this? So, but this may also be something about like education, and maybe a lot of you are trying to balance something in order to like hone your skills for something, especially with, you know, like the stuff we see in the beginning, like what I just said about like Uranus in your 10th. A lot of you may be trying to like diversify your skill set or find like new innovative ways to carry on with your career without it being so physically, emotionally, or financially taxing. And then in the middle of the week, the moon will be in Aquarius and it will trine Venus and Uranus and conjunct Pluto. On one hand, the conjunction of Pluto, it will be coming first. And this might be a little bit annoying, because you may notice that there is kind of a lot of responsibilities and a lot of things to take care of, especially with Pluto having rulership over your 3rd house. So like 25th, 26th, a lot of you may notice that there's a lot of work to be done, a lot of driving, a lot of communicating, a lot of moving around. So I definitely think that this is one of those weeks where you just kind of want to buckle up, Virgo, and make sure that you're really tight with it on your schedule. But then the trine to Venus and Uranus is really nice. It's kind of giving like someone helps you out, or someone lends you a favor, lends you some money, or like takes care of something for you, and it like ends up saving you, or it comes up with like a new idea, like someone does something for you and you're like, wait a second, that's a really good idea, like I could start doing that, or like asking for that, you know. It's kind of giving like, oh, like I really don't want to do this, and your friend or like a coworker is like, oh, like I can just do it like this for you, you know, like this is how I've always done it, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's like a really good idea, you know. So I feel like the highlight of this week, Virgo, is basically that I think that a lot of you will draw some unexpected conclusions that will help you move forward, or it will allow you to come up with some innovative, what's the word? innovative, like, so I want to keep saying solutions for ongoing issues that you've had that will make your life a little bit easier. It might be temporary by nature, but I also think that it will still provide you some sort of reprieve from the routines that you've been having going on. Because I know a lot of you have been having to keep up with a lot of stuff at one time. When are you not? Anyways. Yeah, for you, we have the Fool. I love this card for you. It definitely makes me feel like a lot of you are in this vibe of like setting out on a new journey or starting something new. And it's very, you don't know what to expect, or you're kind of just jumping into something. But I think that a lot of you are relieved or will be relieved by the fact that there is newness at all. You know, like there's finally something that you're able to step into that's a little bit different than what you've been working with, like some sort of novelty and experimentation. Especially if Aquarius ruling over your 6th house, like you can't be caught doing the same thing over and over again. Like you will get bored and you want to experiment. And I feel like this week is allowing you to do just that. Anyways, that's all I have for you, Virgo. Thank you so much for watching. I hope the horoscope resonated, and if it did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye. I love you. Okay, now moving on to Libra rising. So hello, Libra. If you're seeing this, this will be your horoscope for August 24th through August 30th. As always, I've written down everything that I want to talk about. And oh my gosh, wait, hold on. I wanted to post for a thumbnail, and I was like, it feels a little silly to do this. I knew you all would understand, but I wanted to be like, isn't this like not cute? Should I be in the middle? I don't know. Okay, that's good enough for me. I knew you all would understand. But anyways, Libra, so the highlight of this week is obviously the lunar eclipse in Pisces. This is like, a lot of this energy will be taking place on like the 27th, 28th. So these would be like the highlight days. And this will be in your 6th house. And I think that this 6th house with the Pisces, a lot of you are overcoming something. I'm thinking like two distinct things. On one hand, I think that a lot of you could be overcoming something with like sobriety or fighting something of like an addiction or the way that you self-soothe. Like the 6th house makes me think of the ways that you take care of yourself. You know, like if you're like unwinding and relaxing, like how do you do that? And with you, Libra, I know that with Pisces over your 6th house, a lot of you use escapism in order to self-soothe or take care of yourself a little bit, you know, like reading a really good book, like having a drink, or like, you know, having a little bit of like the Zaza and whatnot. So I think that a lot of you could be having some conclusions on how you take care of yourself and how you schedule and arrange yourself, in the sense that, like, you know, have you been doing too much of that? Has there been a lack of balance in your day-to-day routine? Is there some sort of like a disassociation? And then on the other hand, I also think that this could very much be related to some sort of like a detachment or like, you know, Pisces can also be about endings. It can be about like, you know, moving forward. And like the 6th house is about our obligations and work and what we need to take care of. And for a select few of you as well, you could be mourning some sort of like an ending or like wrapping something up. But on the other hand, I also think that this could be related to your work, because I have noticed that a lot of you Libra risings, as I've been saying for the past 2 weeks, have been very, very concerned with like your work schedule and your career. And I think that this lunar eclipse in Pisces is finally leaving you with some sort of like structure or some sort of like, it's kind of giving like all that you need to do. It literally gives like itinerary, you know, like you're going to be doing this, this, and this. This is what you're training for. This is what you're taking now. And this is what you're going to be working towards, you know? And the 6th house is all about like the little actions that we take. So I would say that this week you're finally getting some sort of like a concise answer of like, okay, like this is what I should be doing. This is what my schedule is looking like. And this is how I need to manage my resources. And I still feel like this kind of relates to what I was saying in the first part, in that a lot of you could be trying to arrange how much time you put for yourself. And if that is not the case, Libra, I feel like that is the advice for you. Like, make sure you carve out time for yourself. Make sure you do things that you want to do and make time for that. Like, if you like taking a bath and having a beer, make sure you make time for that and make sure you have the resources necessary for that. You know, Libra, I very much think that with the South Node finishing up in your 12th house in Virgo, like, you need to make time for yourself, and you need to not always be disposable to the people around you, you know? And I feel like that's kind of a harsh way of putting it, but I think that this eclipse is wrapping you up and sending you off and saying like, okay, like what have you learned about boundaries? What have you learned about taking care of yourself and making sure that you have what you need and what you want to do, you know? And I like that the moon will be in Aquarius right before the eclipse, so like kind of like parts of the 25th, 26th, and maybe even the beginning of the 27th. A lot of you will, like, you know, the moon will be in your 5th house, so it will trine Venus and Uranus and conjunct Pluto. So on one hand, with the conjunction of Pluto, make sure to not take it too far with like spending, you know, like going out, having fun, or doing things that you want to do, you know, like a balance is necessary. But I also think that with the trine of Venus and Uranus, a lot of you will be unexpectedly traveling, going somewhere abroad, and maybe even for some of you, because Uranus is in Gemini, a lot of you could just be like going on like a day trip in the middle of the week. Or like planning a day trip. It's so very like, oh, we're gonna drive over here for the day and then drive right back at night, you know? So a lot of you could be kind of like going on like spontaneous trips in the middle of the week or like throughout the course of this week. Or there could also be dealings with like children, having fun with your friends, and maybe there could even be news or revelations revolving around your children or somebody else having children. So that could be relevant. And I was saying to a lot of signs at the beginning of the week and the end of the week has like a very similar flavor, because at the very beginning of the week, like Monday and maybe even the day that I'm uploading this, the moon will be in Capricorn and then at the very end of the week, the moon will be in Aries. And when it's in the former, it will come into a square with Saturn and Venus. And then in the latter, it will be in an opposition with Venus and conjunct Saturn. So beginning and end of the week, it definitely suggests that there's a lot of things going on with like your interpersonal relationships and how that connects with your family and your living situation. There could be a lot going on when it comes to like leases, signing things, agreements, especially if you are dealing with like an agent or like a lawyer or somebody who you're consulting to help you with like property, land, real estate, or, you know, those are just some examples, but it could even be related to something with your family. It could be related to, and you know, with the aspects of Venus, your 8th house ruler, this could be about shared resources. This could be about like inheritances. But on the other hand, I also think that this could just be that a lot of you are like rearranging your money for like a mortgage or like your living situation, or even just like redecorating and cleaning up your room. You know, it doesn't have to be like that big, but I definitely think that with like the Saturnian energy, a lot of you are trying to bring more structure, or you're feeling restricted by your family or like your family or your home, and you are using money or like resources will be available to you, or you will make it available to yourself in order to self-soothe or alleviate or sort out something in this part of your life. Like money and your family are like inherently connected right now. And then at the end of the week, I would say that because Aries can be like frustration and the self, a lot of you could be trying to find some sort of line when it comes to your identification in and out of relationships. And so with Mars in your 10th house, it may be related to your career, your status, and your reputation, especially if you are like a select few where you feel like people recognize you through your partner, you know. I think that a lot of you will be fighting for a sense of individualism this week, especially at the beginning and end of it. And then in the middle of the week with that lunar eclipse in Pisces, it may kind of manifest in how you self-soothe, take care of yourself, and maybe it could be related to something about like your job and your title. But overall, Libra, it kind of just seems like this week a lot of you are trying to establish yourself, and I think that there will be some sort of payoff with it. Because I noticed for a lot of Libra rising, something that used to bring you joy and structure no longer does so, and you're kind of like scrambling to find something else and get out of it. Yeah, we have the 6 of Swords. I definitely think that this is very indicative of the fact that you are trying to, like I said, move forward and let something go and move away from it. You know, this card is about, it's after the 5 of Swords, you know, collecting your swords, your thoughts, and moving away from something that was kind of like an uncomfortable ending or something that was like very inconclusive. A lot of you may feel like the stage of your life that you're in, there isn't really a beginning or an end, and because of that lack of clarity, you're just deciding to move forward and leave it all behind and choose peace. And I like that the water is calm here, because I think that a lot of you have been meditating or coming up to some silent conclusions on your own. Anyways, that's all I have for you, Libra. Thank you so much for watching. I hope the horoscope resonated, and if it did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye. I love you. All right, now moving on to Scorpio rising. So hello, Scorpio. If you're seeing this, this will be your horoscope for August 24th through August 30th. As always, I've written down everything that I want to talk about, and honestly, Scorpio, I think that a lot of you will have a pretty neato week because you're going to see the highlight of the week is like the 27, 28 when we see the lunar eclipse in Pisces, and then we will also see a Mercury cazimi, excuse me, which will be in a square with Uranus. Excuse me, oh my goodness. But the cazimi is in Virgo, so it will take place in your 11th house. Uranus is in your 8th house, and then the eclipse will be in your 5th house. I most certainly think that an eclipse in your 5th house with the ruler in a fire sign, your 10th house, I feel like a lot of you are getting very creative, and this could be manifesting in your career. And it's so literal, you know, like Uranus in your 8th with like Virgo in the 11th, like unexpected income, unexpected ways of making money through being, you know, like 5th house theme. So it's like through your children, through having fun, through being creative, through creating and what you want to do. And especially since your 5th house ruler is literally in Leo, which is about self-expression. So this could even be related to like getting up on stage, you know, performing for people, doing something like stand-up comedy, or even like doing sets, like singing, creating music. You know, it could even be that a lot of you are doing like local gigs and stuff, and with like your other ruler Pluto in Aquarius, like maybe some of you are like trying to get into like a dance group, or you know, maybe you're trying to do something with like creating a band. So those are just like some of the examples. I'm sure that a lot of you have way better ideas than the ones I just listed out. But, you know, with like Virgo in the 11th house, it's kind of like you want to provide a service for your community, and a lot of your dreams revolve around service. And so I think that with the cazimi there, it's kind of giving like ideas on how to do that through your own self-expression. Like there's intention with like wanting to create and self-express by inspiring others, like some sort of like, you know, it's you're very thorough, Scorpio, like that's my point, you know. So it's not like anything that you're trying to do right now is very frivolous, and I feel like that full moon eclipse is kind of reflecting that. A lot of you may also be seeing that there is like a lot of unexpected changes when it comes to romance and relationships and dating. Pisces likes to release. It can be a little bit idealistic and daydreamy, but I kind of feel like a lot of you could be seeing very clearly right now when it comes to love, whether or not you are in a relationship or not. So it's kind of giving like, I see this person very clearly, or oh, I see like my life very clearly. I see myself clearly. And I feel like a lot of you will see more of this kind of being extended on when it comes to the Venus and Mercury retrograde that we see in October. But anyhow, so that's kind of what I have to say about the eclipse. And with the square to Uranus in your 8th, I would just say like, if you're in those stages of like, you know, like being with people and like physically intimate, this is definitely a week where you want to use protection, because Uranus in the 8th, it's kind of giving like unpredictable like catching things, or like unpredictable like pregnancies and stuff. So especially if there's things that you're trying to avoid that you can contract through, you know, like sharpening the pencil, you know what I'm saying, like frosting the cake, I would just take care, because anyways, that's y'all's business. So I've been saying that the beginning of the week and the end of the week has a similar flavor, because at the very beginning of the week, say like literally the 24th, we are going to see the moon in Capricorn, and then at the very end of the week after the eclipse, we're going to see the moon in Aries. And in the latter, it will conjunct Saturn and oppose Venus, but then in the former, it will square Saturn and Venus. And Saturn is in your 6th house. And I also wanted to mention this because the eclipse is kind of influenced by Neptune, of course, and Neptune is also in your 6th house. And a lot of you have been dealing with like health stuff and routine stuff and things with like your work. And because Aries is about like exercise, a lot of you could be trying to weave in like swimming classes, or a lot of you could be like getting a lifeguard job. That'd be pretty random. But it could also be something about maybe a lot of you are trying to like get into synchronized swimming. Who knows? But on the other hand of things, I also think that this could be that a lot of you are trying to purge negative habits. So like Neptune in the 6th can be very like, it can pick up things like smoking and drinking, and it can be, you know, it can struggle a lot with taking care, especially if you do have like a cardinal moon. So if your moon is in like a cardinal sign, this especially applies to you. I think that the beginning and the end of the week, a lot of you will be pretty busy and trying to take care of your routine. And I would just say, like, be on top of it with your sleep schedule. And, you know, especially with Venus in your 12th house, I think that this is like a very great time to beautify your bedroom, get new bed sheets, invest in your bed. Like, maybe some of you could literally be buying a new mattress. But the 12th house makes me think of places of like healing and isolation as well. So maybe a lot of you are also going to like a hospital or like a church or like a monastery in order to realign yourself spiritually. But this could also be that you're going to like a hospital to take care of yourself and heal yourself. Whether it be that you are actually dealing with some health stuff that you're having to go there for, especially if like an eclipse in your 5th house, like a lot of you could be like pregnant and you're like having kids and this requires you to go to the hospital. But for others of you, this could also be that you're trying to find work or some sort of opportunity in a hospital. So a lot of you could be pursuing something in like nursing or hospitalization, and maybe even with like older people, especially with like Saturn in the 6th. It kind of just gives me like Saturn in the 6th in Aries makes me think of like physical therapy, makes me think of like hospice care or something. So that could be relevant for a lot of you. And because the eclipse is concluding, maybe you're trying to move away from that. And this is also added on by the fact that Mars, your 6th house ruler, is in Cancer. So especially in the 9th house, like a lot of you could be trying to like move or like work remote, but this could also be that like, you know, like Cancer wants to care and nurture for others. So it could be that a lot of you trying to further upon that sector of your life to gain more experience and money. I also want to say that in the very middle of the week, like the 25th, 26th, 27th, beginning of the 27th, the moon will be in Aquarius. It will conjunct Pluto. So I definitely think that a lot of you could be having to be of service to your family in some way, or maybe there could be a lot of stuff going on within like the home or family situation. You know, Pluto rules like ending, so a lot of you could be like dealing with stuff like inheritances and whatnot, especially with like Uranus in the 8th house. Like this may be like a wild ride for a lot of you. But for others of you, I just think that the moon conjunct Pluto, it's like a lot of you are thinking very, very deeply about like your roots and your upbringing and like your childhood, especially if you feel like there is trauma there. And then when the moon is in this sign as well, it will trine Uranus and Venus. Very beautiful sign. I think that a lot of you will be in like a very reflective mood in the middle of the week. And it could be because of the people that you're hanging around or the media that you consume. But Aquarius is kind of like a loner. It's a little bit eccentric. So I think that a lot of you will be kind of like detaching from something and observing it from afar. Random note, but because the moon is in your 4th house of your home, and then Venus is in your 7th house ruler in your 12th house, a lot of you could be having like a partner or like a close friend like sleepover or something. I feel like you'd like this tarot deck. The backs of it is so pretty. But for you, we have the 8 of Swords. I feel like this is very reflective of the Moon and Pluto conjunction in your 4th house in Aquarius, because it kind of just seems like a lot of you, you know, like all that air sign energy, like very stuck in your head. And I feel like the eclipse in your 5th is very much like you know what you want to do, but you aren't really sure how to get there, or you aren't really sure how you can do more with it. Especially with Saturn in your 6th and it's not aspecting your ascendant. So it's like, you know, like it's kind of hard to create and do fun stuff when you are working a job where you're constantly on call, or it's kind of hard to work around it when your routine is all over the place and you're having to take care of others, you know. So follow your intuition and use your emotions to the best of your ability. I think that your intuition will guide you out of this situation beautifully, and it will also fuel your creativity and the things that you want to create and do. But overall, I kind of feel like the advice here is to clear your mind the best way you know how, and take it one step at a time. Like, you're having a lot of big revelations, and these aren't really things that you can just like act on like day and night, you know. Like, this is something that's like, it takes time, and that's okay. Anyways, that's all I have for you, Scorpio. Thank you so much for watching. I hope the horoscope resonated, and if it did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye, I love you. Okay, now moving on to Capricorn rising. So hello, Capricorn. If you're seeing this, this would be your horoscope for August 24th through August 30th. I cannot wait till it cools down. I love summer, but it's too hot right now. Anyways, Capricorn, so the highlight of this week is, of course, the full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces, which will be, you'll feel it like 27th, 28th. So those are like the highlighted days, but it will actually happen on the 27th. But this is in your third house, and it is also being featured alongside a Mercury cazimi, which is in a square with Uranus, who is in your sixth house. So this is between your third, your ninth, and your sixth house. And this is really busy, honestly. I kind of just see this as like a through week where something is finally being concluded, or you are coming up with like an innovative way to buy yourself more time and space and energy, especially if you're one of those Cap risings who you just feel like you've had a lot to do. Like, can we just be real? Your sixth house ruler moving into Virgo, it just really shows that there is going to be a lot to do from here on out. And I think that a lot of you will kind of feel like there's like a lot of obligations or responsibilities, and there could also be random shifts at work, and you may literally be rolling the dice. But the nice thing is, though, is that the lunar eclipse is in your third house, which is sextiling your ascendant. So really what you do with the information, what happens this week, is what you please, if that makes, because I'm kind of like, I'm seeing like the sixth and ninth house stuff as like, okay, like this happened. And then the third house eclipse is like, what are you going to do about it, you know? And aside from all that, you know, a lunar eclipse in Pisces in your third house, like the third house makes me think of like the habits that you actively engage in. And the moon does well in this. So I think that you all have like a little bit of an advantage here. But I think that a lot of you should pay attention to the way that you approach your daily habits, your sleep schedule, especially if you also delve into things like substances. I was kind of telling this to Libra as well, because I noticed how Pisces on your third house, Capricorn, some of you have a tendency to actively engage with substances or escapism as a way to self-soothe, or as a way to just something that you do, you know? Not always a bad thing. I just think that maybe for some of you, if you feel like it's gotten a little bit out of hand with the aspects to your sixth and your ninth house, a lot of you are developing new philosophies on the habits that you engage in, whether it be related to substances or not. But I feel pretty confident in saying that there is something about your day-to-day life that you're wanting to revise, and the habits that you yourself actively engage in that you're wanting to change up. And I think that this lunar eclipse will provide you some sort of like an ultimatum, or some sort of like an incentive or conclusion that will allow you to either let it go or to integrate it into your life a little bit more productively. And with Uranus in your sixth house, a lot of you may also experience random changes at work, like I said. So there could be like layoffs going on. Maybe there could be like switching to hybrid schedules, going online. Maybe there could be like a surge of like technology or communications or something. Or there could literally be changes in your work system. So like the computers, the infrastructure, the utilities, the products, and even the people that you interact with, especially if you work in sales. There could be changes going on there, because whenever I think Gemini, I just think sales. But and then the aspect to the Mercury cazimi in your ninth house, a lot of you could be, like I said, or not like I said, but wanting to pursue like a higher education, or a lot of this may require you to perfect something, right? Like Virgo wants to improve, and it wants to take the next step, and it wants to experiment. And over the ninth house, like faith, philosophy, but also long distance matters, traveling, but also like enterprise and property and corporations and companies. So a lot of you could be having to be of service to this in some way, shape, or form. And with the square to Uranus in your sixth, you may be doing so in like an unexpected or new and or refreshing way. And I feel like this is also playing off of the lunar eclipse in Pisces in your third, where it's like you're being very creative about it. And then on the 25th, like 26th, 27th, like around this threshold, we will see the moon in Aquarius. And this will be moving through your second house. It will trine Venus and Uranus, but conjunct Pluto. So I feel like the conjunction of Pluto could definitely be that a lot of you are reflecting on, or like going over some sort of like an experience that is building your self-worth. Like Pluto moving through your second house is very like, I got through this, I can get through this, you know? It's like, I've been through worse, I can do this as well. Like that's what Pluto in the second house makes me think of. And with the moon here, the ruler of your seventh house, this could be related to your interpersonal relationships and your connections, which, by the way, everything that I've said leading up until this point could also be tied into your relationships when it comes to like boundaries, service, and the distribution of responsibilities. So that could be relevant for a lot of you, but I really like the moon will be in a trine with Venus and Uranus. I think that this is a good look for your career and for your status. I think that a lot of you will be seeing some sort of good fortune coming through this week when it comes to money, when it comes to finances. And because Venus has rulership over your 5th house, it could be due to like creativity or like your grace and your knack for quality and good taste. I think that there will be an appreciation for that. And I also just see this as like people being more generous with you. Maybe they're, I think that if you're one of those Cap risings that if you're wanting to like go on a date or if you're wanting to be a little bit more romantic, the middle of the week could be a pretty good time to do that because partners will have a tendency to be more understanding and generous with you. But on the other hand of it, I also think that a lot of you could be finding like an unexpected source of income or like a little bit of like a side gig because of the trine to Uranus in your 6th. So it's like doing like computer work, online work, or just like something very like small and very simple. Maybe some of you are trying to pick up an extra job or like a part-time position in order to scrape up some more pennies and whatnot, even though they don't even make pennies anymore. But the beginning of the week and the end of the week, I'd say, will affect you the most aside from the eclipse, because in the very start of the week, the moon will be in your sign in Capricorn, and at the end of the week, the moon will be in Aries. The former will come into a square with Saturn and Venus. The latter will come into an opposition with Venus and a conjunction with Saturn. And I've been saying like it's very like same but diff. This is between your 1st and your 4th house. So beginning and end of the week, there will be something going on with like your home, your living situation, and you know, especially like your father as well, especially when it comes to like your partners. Like if you are in a relationship, Capricorn, you may find that like having to balance this prospect of your life, but is the prospect the right word? But also like developing things with like your home and your family could also be like a big thing like throughout the course of this week, and it may require like a lot of delicate handling, especially if you're trying to advance in your career. So it's just kind of like, my point is that a lot of you just might feel like a lot of areas of your life are turning right now because you have a planet, at least one planet in each angular house. And this will be exaggerated in the beginning of the week because the moon will be in your 1st house. So I just think that the beginning and start of this week, take it easy and don't be afraid to just kind of be a little bit more diplomatic and wait things out right now. You know, give things some time and don't be afraid to come up with some like temporary solutions, because I think that a lot of you all are seeing like a lot of movement in your life at the moment. Yeah, for you, we have the 9 of Swords. I definitely get the sense that a lot of you, the Capricorn has been going through a lot. Like, you all are kind of like, man, like, I want this from my partner, but I need this first, and then I need to take care, like, oh, like, I need to, like, scrape up some of this, or, like, should I get this job? Like, do I want to work here? Like, what do I want to do with my future? Where am I going to live? Who am I? And I just get the sense that a lot of you have way too much on your mind right now, especially with, like, a lunar eclipse in your 3rd house, the house of the mind. So I just kind of think that a lot of you should be very mindful of like shedding certain responsibilities and shedding certain thought processes. So this could be like a great time to like get some sort of like external source, like especially if you are looking to like therapy or like sending in applications for something. But I could also see this as like clearing your mind, getting plenty of rest, doing things that you love, exercising, keeping a journal. I just think that right now, nothing is more important than making sure that your brain is being taken care of. So please pay attention to your mental health, Capricorn. Anyways, that's all I have for you, Capricorn. Thank you so much for watching. I hope the horoscope resonated, and if it did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye. I love you. Okay, now moving on to Aquarius rising. So hello, Aquarius. If you're seeing this, this will be your horoscope for August 24th through August 30th. As always, I've written down everything that I want to talk about. And of course, the highlight of the week is the lunar eclipse in Pisces, which will be taking place on the 27th, but like 27, 28, I'd say is like very important. And this will be in your 2nd house. And so 2nd house is about our experiences, like what we know, like think of it as like a resume. And you know, like there's a lot of things that go into it, but it's like what we are capable of, what we believe ourselves to be capable of. And with Pisces, you know, about spirituality, emotions, and boundaries, and everything intangible and like magical, the occult, divination, and magic. It's just like all that good stuff. I think that a lot of these two things combining together shows that a lot of you have developed a new sense of self-worth when it comes to your emotional experience, your spirituality, and your ability to believe in things for not only yourself, but also like the universe at hand. And then this eclipse will also feature a Mercury Cazimi, which will be taking place in your 8th house. Pretty interesting place to have a Mercury Cazimi, but this will also come into a square with Uranus in your 5th house. So on one hand, there could definitely be a lot of things going on here when it comes to like your self-worth and your ability to believe, everything that I just said when it comes to like 5th house themes. So very unexpectedly too, like this might not even be like your original goal. It might just be like something that you just realize, and it could be related to your inner child. It could be related to your own self-expression, your own sense of creativity, especially if it's related to like thinking, writing, consuming media, and reading. But it may also be that this could literally be about children, and when it comes to like, because I know a lot of Aquarius risings have been trying to have children or are having children or are pregnant. But for the other side of you, I think that a lot of you are also believing more in yourself from more of like a egotistical perspective, and not necessarily in like a bad way, of course. Like I feel like the word egotistical has like some connotations to it, but I just think that it's very much so related to like your own abilities and allowing yourself to just be. And then the Cazimi in your 8th house definitely suggests that there's something going on here. So like the 8th house, it makes me think of like other people's resources. It makes me think of like death, rebirth, transformation, the reproductive organs. Virgo wants to improve and organize and make things better. So those themes come like together. It kind of seems like a lot of you could be coming up with like new financial plans, reorganizing your money situation. You could be trying to improve your health to have children, and it could be through the use of like technology, of like Uranus in your 5th. Like it kind of just makes me think like a lot of you, especially if you've gotten surgery, or if you're like, it kind of makes me think of like, because Uranus is like, it makes me think like an IUD. Like I know like that's kind of like the opposite of having a kid, but it's like that concept of having like something inserted into your body and something that will help you. And it doesn't even have to be like related to your body. It could definitely be something else that is being input in order to make something run better. So it could be that. It could be as simple as like, oh, I'm gonna put my electricity bill on auto pay, or oh, I'm going to put this money in this account and I'm going to use the system that will just do it automatically for me, so I don't have to like think about it and like be late on my bills. Excuse me. Obviously, those are pretty generic examples. I think you as an Aquarius rising are probably a lot more creative with it, but basically my point is that you are trying to innovate and you're trying to improve some part of your life so that you don't have to expend so much energy and time thinking about it or dedicating yourself to it, if that makes sense. And I also want to say that this could also be related to your diet for some of you, and this lunar eclipse could be like revealing something about like fluids and like liquids and whatnot, because like that's Pisces. On the other hand, I was also thinking like the 2nd house is obviously about our resources, so a lot of you as well could be like receiving unexpected money, or sorting something out when it comes to your money in order to make way for the Cazimi in the opposite of the like that 2nd house. So it's like the 8th house. So it's like, oh, I'm going to do this and then I'll pay this off, And a lot of you may also receive unexpected money from things like having children or something about like support from others. This could also be related to romantic relationships and developing new like self-worth tactics when it comes to showing up in them. And anyways, aside from that, in the middle of the week, right before the eclipse, around like maybe 26th, we are going to see the moon in Aquarius, and it will trine Venus and Uranus and conjunct Pluto. I definitely think that the conjunction of Pluto is very significant here. I think that this summer has been a total drag for all of us, and you are no exception, Aquarius. And I think that Leo season particularly has probably been very all over the place because of all the oppositions that we've seen to Pluto in your 1st house. And I think that the moon moving through this right before the eclipse is kind of showing that a lot of you are purging some difficult emotions or coming to some conclusions. And my advice to you is, because since the moon has rulership over your 6th house, through routine and obligation, will you be moving through this week as clean as possible, if that makes sense. But the nice thing is that the moon will trine Venus and Uranus. I think you will really like this energy. I think a lot of you will be able to experiment this week. A lot of you could be going on day trips, traveling, or going abroad, or like just getting into contact with a friend whom you haven't been able to talk to in a while. Some of you could be having a partner who gets travel benefits and you're like, oh wow, like let's go together, wow, you know. Especially with like Venus in your ninth house Libra, it's still giving like connections and like people who are around you, and like they're like, oh, like we have a place over here you can stay, and you're like, hey yo, like that was like the one issue about traveling, so you could be going there as well. This also makes me think of like property stuff, so I think that there could be good news revolving around that if that is something that you have been dealing with. I also think that the trine to Venus and Uranus just also shows like a lot of you will be able to come up with like new philosophies or like develop new ways of looking at your life. So I think that this lunar eclipse in the days leading up into will be very cathartic. I've been saying that sorry, my friend texted me. I've been saying that the beginning of the week and the end of the week has a very similar flavor, because the very beginning of the week, the moon will be in Capricorn, and at the very end of the week, the moon will be in Aries. The latter will come into an opposition with Venus, and it will conjunct Uranus, or excuse me, conjunct Saturn. And then the beginning of the week, we will see when the moon's in Capricorn, the former, it will come into a square with Venus and Uranus. So it's like very same but diff, like forming harsh aspects to Venus and Saturn. And Saturn is in your third house, and then Venus is in your ninth house. So many of you may see things going on of like long distance matters and communications. I think that this week will be a little bit dicey when it comes to having to explain and like talk to people, and especially with like Pluto in your first, it's kind of giving like, oh, like having to have like a difficult conversation, saying things that maybe you don't necessarily want to say. So I just think that the beginning and end of the week, if you're going into this week anticipating conversations as you normally are good at doing, Aquarius, I would say don't be afraid to script things out, and don't be afraid to have like things planned and things ready to say to people, and don't even be afraid to just like set boundaries with people of like not wanting to talk about certain things and not wanting to reveal certain things as well. I just think that the moon moving through your 12th and your third house, or yeah, your 12th and your third house, it just kind of gives like difficulties of like communications, like isolation, and being forced to look at your life from like a new perspective. So I just think that other people don't always have to be involved in what's going on in your mind. This card just wanted to come up. Yeah, for you, I can't show it all. We have the Six of Cups. So the Six of Cups is about like nostalgia, childhood, and like your inner child. And I feel like this is very indicative of the aspects that we are seeing to Uranus in your fifth house. And I feel like there's an air of nostalgia, and I think it's interesting how this character is holding one cup up above the water, so, and all these other cups are below the water. So a lot of you may feel like you've lost experiences or certain things to the past, and you may feel like there's a lot of things that you no longer can have, or there's just things that are not as possible as they once used to be. But this is saying that there is one cup above the rest that you're able to salvage, and this may just be all that you need. So I feel like the message here is, Aquarius, is really take care and really appreciate, and you know, like I'm hearing like count your blessings to see what you look for, you know, and not in a way that's like, oh, like you have grieved and that's not valid, but more so in a way that like, for as logical as you are, you know that there can be nothing done about it right now. So why not just dedicate that energy towards something productive and liking something and appreciating what is there to support you and cultivating that and growing that, and who knows, maybe it will turn into something even better than what you are grieving. Anyways, that's all I have for you, Aquarius. Thank you so much for watching. I hope the horoscope resonated, and if it did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye. I love you. All right, now moving on to Pisces rising. So last but not least, hello Pisces. If you're seeing this, this would be your horoscope for August 24th through August 30th. I've written down everything that I want to talk about, of course. And big news, the 27-28, we are seeing that lunar eclipse in Pisces, wrapping up everything. Thank goodness. I know y'all are tired of being dragged through the rakes. Hallelujah. But this will be, of course, in your first house, and this features some pretty interesting aspects because we will also see a Mercury Cazimi in your seventh, and this will all square, like the eclipse will square Uranus in your fourth. So I think that there will be some unexpected changes following this eclipse. when it comes to your family, when it comes to your living situation, when it comes to partnerships, marriages, connection, and how this all identifies, like boils back down to you as a person, your persona, your essence, and your identity. I'm also thinking like Uranus and Gemini, it makes me think of like siblings and like immediate relatives. This could be like an unexpected source of like change for you as well. So especially if you're dealing with family members of that caliber, there may be something going on there. And because of the Kazemi in your 7th in Mercury or in Virgo, this could be something about like being of service to others, whether it be like a partner, whether it be your family, or even them having to be of service to you in some way. And a lot of you may come up with like unexpected ways of like living. I've been noticing that a lot of Pisces placements have been like coming up with like these kooky arrangements when it comes to like their living situation, how y'all get around, and like transportation. So it could just be that this is like a conclusion of that, and you're finally able to like move somewhere that you want to live, or live somewhere that is suitable for you, or be around the right people. And I also want to say that because the ruler Jupiter is in Leo, so your 6th house, this could somehow be tied to like your work and like your work situation, especially for a lot of you if you have like pets or animals, like this could be very important. But I just think that like Jupiter in your 6th is like expanding upon like your capabilities and like the obligations that you have. So you may be noticing that as you are dealing with everything that I just said, it's like picking up more responsibilities, more labor, and more things on your plate. So I think that this eclipse for you is a lot of coming into being based on the pressure that you are feeling in order to maintain certain aspects of your life, which I think is a good thing because I think it's very much grounding for you. And then in the middle of the week, say like the 25th, 26th, and even like the first half of the 27th, we are going to see the moon move through Aquarius. So it will move through your 12th house, and it will conjunct Pluto, trine Venus and Uranus. And I really want you to lean into the trine to Venus and Uranus, because a lot of you with the conjunction of Pluto may give into like self-sabotaging habits, and a lot of you may not be aware of something, especially when it comes to like your dreams and like what you want to accomplish. And like I just kind of like Aquarius, to me, it wants to treat everything like a commodity. Like it wants to do business, it wants to work, and it gets frustrated with the collective. And I feel like maybe there could be self-sabotaging tendencies in that, and perhaps letting that go and releasing it or addressing it in healthier ways will be very good for you. And with like the trine of Uranus and Venus, Uranus being in your 4th and Venus being in your 8th, it could just be like a major transformation when it comes to like your relationships with partners, with your family, with your home, with the resources that you receive, and maybe even like reassessing traumas that you have gone through when it comes to intimately connecting one-on-one with other people, with that trine of Venus in your 8th. And I also think that, so I've been saying like the beginning of the week and the end of the week has like a very similar flavor, because at the very start of the week the moon will be in Capricorn, and then at the very end of the week the moon will be moving through Aries. And the latter, when it's in the latter, it will come into a opposition with Venus and conjunct Saturn, but in the former it will come into a square with both Venus and Saturn. So you know, like the Saturn is in your 2nd house and Venus is in your 8th house. So it's like very financial. So for a lot of you, there could be like a lot of rearranging to do when it comes to your finances throughout the course of this week, especially if you're tangled up in like legal matters, or if there's anything going on with like a court system, or if you are in like some sort of like battle, or you're trying to like apply for something. Saturn in your 2nd house, it kind of just seems like also you are building structure and discipline and trying to get the skills necessary, because the 2nd house very much makes me think of like a resume. You know, it's like what you believe yourself to be capable of, what you can do, and you know, your self-worth and whatnot. So I just think that with like Saturn and Aries, you know, Aries is a self, Saturn restricts, and it is disciplined. So a lot of you could be trying to learn more skill sets in order to invest in yourself, so that you can be a more valuable asset in your own life, so that you can believe that you are more capable of taking care of things. And then with the Kazemi in your 2nd house, it's very indicative of like, okay, like how can I stop relying on partners so much, or how can I have these partners stop relying so much on me, you know, because Virgo is about like service and reliance, you know. And then, you know, when the moon's in Capricorn in your 11th house, this could also be boiling down to like your dreams and what you want to accomplish. So it's like, okay, like I really want to do this moving forward, so let me take care to invest in myself so that I can put one foot in front of the other and slowly get there. And then when the moon's in Aries, I think a lot of you may also have to like pay some stuff out, or there may be like debts coming through, or like things like money will come through, but it also could be that you're having to pay things off as well as you sort of go. So I think that there will be like a lot of give and take throughout the course of this week, where you could receive something, but then you have to kind of dedicate that towards something else. So you'll kind of just feel like by the end of the start of the week and the end of the week, you might kind of just feel like you're back where you started, but really you've bought yourself time and probably sorted out some issues and tensions when it comes to like financial situations, or even like intimacy and like stuff with like intimate affairs with like partners and your family and whatnot. I know I keep saying partners and family, but it doesn't have to be this demographic. It could also be related to your social circles and your friends and your immediate community and the people that you serve and you connect and work with on a regular basis. I'm just kind of saying family and whatnot because of the aspects between your 4th and your 7th, so it's very like literal, you know, like that is literally your family and your partners. But I also think that a lot of you could be seeing some sort of like a breakthrough when it comes to like contracts and leases. So definitely keep an eye out for that. But I think the middle of the week is definitely like the creme de la creme for you, with the eclipse and then the moon moving through Aquarius. I really want you to pay attention to when the moon's in Aquarius, because that conjunction of Pluto, like I really do think that this will be like an emotional time for you. And it's not a bad time to like take a step back and like meditate. Aquarius makes me think of like group, and then the 12th house makes me think of like places of healing. So maybe like going with a group to like a monastery, or like maybe there could even be dealings of like a hospital. But also I just kind of see this as like taking care to think for yourself and be alone and feeling things through and processing things. Yeah, for you, we have the Ace of Pentacles. I definitely feel like this full moon is very like the ending of something, which will make way for the beginning of something else. And I kind of feel like this is like the beginning of you, Pisces. You know, I feel like for the past like 2-3 years, even 4, it's kind of been like nonstop hurdles and having to kind of navigate relationships and connections with other people, and how that also relates to you. You know, it's like, yes, you're in a relationship, but like with this person, but it's like you are in it too, you know. And this doesn't have to be with like another person, you know. It could literally be with like a career, a business, something else that you are creating and something that you are actively giving yourself to. And I kind of feel like the Ace of Pentacles is showing like either A, hard work and new beginnings are coming, and like, or hard work is paying off and new beginnings are coming, or this is showing that a lot of you are shedding something in order to pursue something that is more longevity oriented and truly important to you. Anyways, that's all I have for you, Pisces. Thank you so much for watching. I hope the horoscope resonated, and if it did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye. I love you.